with her children, specifically her small son, who's 2, which is demanding in itself, but also he's a Pisces in a Virgo moon, so that's more specific. But would you say a lot of y'all kind of things that should work kind of flow, or does it take a little more work, Gabby? With you and like the Pisces in the house.
Well, it depends on the transition. So like the transit planets that are happening, sometimes the cycle that they were in, it kind of changes our dynamics. Um, because what once was balanced sometimes feels a little bit unstable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's mostly just because they're still trying to they figured out that one step and now it's like, oh fuck, we have to try something else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which especially since a lot of the years that they have been living in this reality currently, it's been a lot of switches with a lot of fire signs,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of can cause a little bit of discord.
Mm-hmm.
um, and they're water, so it's like, fuck, I can't throw enough water on here to blow this out. It's causing steam, and I'm feeling it, and it's not feeling comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that can be for my husband too sometimes. Um, with me, I'm more overwhelmed because I feel like I'm drowning.
Mm.
Because I'm an earth sign, it's like, okay, too much water, too much water. I need to reground like as soon as I've dealt with the chaos.
Right.
Um, which usually means I need a little bit of alone time, or I need to focus on some work for me to feel like I'm rebalancing, or I need to do something with my hands. Um, and that's how I am able to recenter to counteract whatever comes back at me.
Right. That makes sense.
Because they're actively still learning things and experiencing things that I've already somewhat have experienced throughout my experience now that I'm this age. So
Ash says, I'm a fire sign surrounded by water in my fan, but I stay sane with my Cancer moon, I think. Which fire sign are you exactly? Which one? You have like a kind of a chillness to you. If I had to guess, you're probably a Leo. You seem kind of chill. Sagittarius, okay, that would
I
have been
had
my
a
second
feeling.
guess.
I had a feeling. Um, it's because you're very like none of that really sticks to you. You have a Leo rising. Okay, yep. See, we were both on somewhere. Okay, so in front of them, if you're feeling a little bit unsure of what's going on around them, you put up that Leo part of which is that very bright, brilliant kind of like vibe, which doesn't really make them think that there's anything wrong with the situation because you've already made the stage that it's okay. Now, your Sagittarius side is probably showing a little bit more of like, I see where they're aiming at. I don't really like what that is, so I'm going to jab another direction and show them what that target should look like on the other side in case something doesn't really play out. But I do think, yeah, your Cancer moon probably does level out that fire for you. Um, yeah, you have no tolerance. I think that your Leo does help you feel like you have some version of it in front of people when you're trying to like deal with them because
Interesting.
it is your stage.
Hmm.
So you really don't have to like if you're like the prima diva of the opera basically. There's like nobody can mess with this unless I direct it as such.
Oh
Oh,
man,
that's it. That's interesting.
yeah. I have a Ash. I also have a quite a bit of Leo. Gab's got Leo in her chart somewhere too. I think me and Gabby have the same Leo placement. My Mars and Jupiter. What else I got in Leo? Mars, Jupiter, and my Venus is all in Leo. I have a ton of Leo. I have a
I think
mostly
I have a
Leo Pisces.
similar setup. I'm pretty sure I do.
I think your Mars is definitely in Leo.
My Mars and my Venus are definitely in a fire
Fine.
in Aries.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know about my Jupiter. Yeah, no, my Jupiter's not. My Jupiter is in yeah, my Mars is in Leo, my Venus is in Aries, and then my Jupiter is in Libra.
That's a good placement for Jupiter. That's a sane placement for Jupiter. Like it keeps you from going too far overboard. That's a
Yeah,
really
it
good point.
definitely brings me back to reality sometimes.
It also helps that your moon's in Libra too.
Yeah, I think that really does balance out the air sign part of my chart. It's kind of cool.
Mm. Yeah, Libra's cool. Yeah, Sagittarius get along with Libras pretty well. And well, you have a lot of fire anyway, so you would have got along with Libras for the most part anyway. Because Sagittarius and Libras get along pretty good, and then you have Leos and Libras get along pretty well too. So you would have probably got along with Libras one way or the other. Oh,
Yeah.
you got a bunch of Sagittarius around you. I know a few people with that placement too. Actually, a Cancer moon is a great placement for a Sagittarius because it makes them less rash with like emotionally rash with decisions. Like they tend to be a lot more because Sagittarius have a bad habit of being too quick and too blunt with situations. And a Libra moon definitely, I'm sorry, not Libra, but Cancer moon help definitely makes them a lot more empathetic. It makes them a lot more empathetic with that moon because
It's like
Tony has
my emotions mean something
right.
deeper, and it's not just like very the surface is not all you get. There's deeper parts of it if you feel comfortable enough sharing that part of how you're feeling.
Mhm.
I think that, and if it comes better with your family, or people that you feel is more like respected to be able to have that honor to be in that part of your emotions. Especially when you're very balanced in your emotions, like you understand that it's okay for you to have these feelings, um, and that it's not all in your head. Sometimes it really is what it is,
Mhm. Yeah,
which does help out a lot.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree, 100%. Uh, let's get to our first Lilith here, and we're gonna
Mhm.
start with the fixed sign since it is well, it's pretty close to it. It's technically Libra season still, but we'll start because I think we started with the cardinal signs last time. So we'll start with the fixed signs this time, and you talking about a placement with Lilith starting in Scorpio. Holy crap, we're already veering down the quote unquote dark side here, and I'm trying to find the good because I got a couple good articles on it.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Oh, this okay, not that one. I got to pull this
uh,
up. This is one I'm looking for. Here we go. So Lilith in Scorpio. Holy crap. So let me type in traits. That'll probably help. So Lilith in Scorpio tends to romanticize and idealize relationships and then struggles to see them through once the honeymoon period has ended. If a partner's attention falters to anything less than complete devotion, Lilith and Scorpio feels deeply scorned. That definitely sounds like Lilith and Scorpio. What say you, Gab?
yeah, it's definitely they can sometimes feel uncomfortable or show a sign of jealousy, that they don't know how to explain, especially if they've been told they can't feel a certain way about something, um, and it's been taken away from them, like that intimacy or that attachment or deep connection that they've been longing for their whole lives. Um, that definitely can show a very huge lack of acceptance for themselves, for people in their life that they want to be connected. They really do want to be a part of every single aspect. They need it, and they always feel ashamed for it, especially if it's something that they're actively working on. Um, so it's definitely something to when they start to like get a lot more healed and comfortable with themselves. You definitely can see that empowerment of like this like almost kind of like pompous, like very charismatic, charming, like dynamic that kind of just sprouts all over their energy. It's really beautiful, especially when they
Mhm.
start accepting that part of themselves that needs a little work. So,
Yeah. Sometimes with Scorpio, the way that they just process things in general, and just like they're just so emotionally deep. It's a scary thing that I just don't like to conceptualize very often. You know what I mean? It's just they're way too profound for me. Yeah, they're way too profound for me. I didn't even.
yeah.
There is too much. Well, you have a Scorpio rise, so only Scorpio plays as far as I know, is my Pluto is in Scorpio. That's the only Scorpio.
Yeah, my Pluto's a Scorpio and my rising.
Yeah, that Scorpio rising is nothing to be trifled with. I know a couple people with that. It's almost like the perfect bullshit detector to have. You know what I mean? It's a great placement. Yeah, they're not to be trifled with at all. I know a couple people with that placement. Let's push forward. So we're going to go to next with Gabby's sign, Lilith and Taurus. Lilith and Taurus finds true comfort in possessions. That sounds like Taurus in general. This can be unhealthy. However, when you try to own people in the same way of your objects, Lilith and Taurus struggles to detach themselves from monetary goals of life and often need to gently remind the things that are that truly matter. They need to be reminded. What say you, Gabby?
Sorry, I'm answering. Placement.
Oh, you're good.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to let Ash know that that's actually a beautiful placement for your Jupiter. Honestly, that's
yes, it is.
Probably the best placement for a Scorpio part. For Lilith and Taurus, it's definitely they get pretty much shamed for self-indulging, shamed for not sharing, for holding stuff too tightly. No, you're okay, Ash. I just wanted to make you feel included. While he's talking, I was just trying to make sure that you knew that you were being seen. So I do apologize. You're not interrupting anything. Trust me. Like, this is what this is here for. It's all about learning. But yeah, so they definitely feel like they have to apologize sometimes for them enjoying themselves. Especially when like everything just seems to be like being told that they are their sort of behavior, like hoarding and purging and or going in between those extremes, can be a sign of them being out of control. Like that shame has hit a whole nother level, and that's when you can tell that something is imbalanced. And this does take a lot of time for a Taurus because they are stubborn. Especially when they're feeling that unbalancement, it's definitely really hard for them to hear and swallow the pieces of themselves that they really do need to fix. But once they realize that it's not out of malice, it's to help improve the work that they're already doing, then they do tend to more lean towards not feeling that punishment and like start to like move forward with everything, because sometimes they do feel like they have to punish themselves in some way because of that shame that's been brought on them. So it does help a lot for them to then accept that they can indulge every once in a while. And it doesn't matter what people are saying. They can actually still be enjoying life the way that they've always intended themselves to be too.
Yeah, that sounds. I mean, it sounds like the best thing for them to do is just to like, just try to stay as like balanced with everything as possible. Indulge when you need to, and disconnect when you don't. I mean, that seems like the most sensible way.
Yeah, it's all about moderation for a Taurus in general. Like, because if they don't have that like moral compass of that, it can sometimes turn a Taurus into either more gluttonous or starving themselves.
Right.
Of that attention or that energy needed to sustain themselves. And especially with that Lilith placement, that can look all kinds of different ways, depending on where that shame was based on. So if it was based on self-indulgence, so instead of them like going ahead and buying a dress for themselves or getting that new suit, that would be considered an indulgence that would be considered too self-centered. So they would buy something for somebody else to kind of counterbalance that.
Ah, interesting. They sound very Libra, and it could be because they both are controlled by Venus. That's probably has something to do with it.
Yeah, and it's also because of the way that it's supposed to, like the wealth of it, like the worthiness of that particular item. Like they're more materialistic than a Libra, so it's gonna be in like a more like an item base or a like something that is worth giving and receiving back to them.
Right. Got you. Whereas a Libra would do it probably in like a relationship correction type of
Yeah,
way.
it would be more of a partnership relationship, kind of like contracted environment.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's man, this stuff is interesting. I learned new stuff about this. This is why we love having Gabby on. We really love having Gabby on here. Let's switch to the air side of the fixed signs now and go to Aquarius, the very interesting, rebellious people. Lilith in Aquarius struggles to set their boundaries. Lilith in Aquarius has issues with letting go of people as they consider ending friendship/relationship as admitting defeat. And Aquarius hate to admit when they're wrong, especially when it comes to being a judge of character. That sounds exactly right. And a lot of Aquarius, I have a lot of cousins that are a pain in the ass with shit like this. But what say you, Gabby?
Yeah, having this kind of energy as a Lilith in Aquarius, it can feel like very off-putting because they really do want to be a part of a group, but that individuality part still stands in between them being a part of society. Um, and it's just them actually just not rejecting those basic needs that they actually need to still sustain that individuality. They shouldn't be feeling ashamed or put off just because of that longing for being a part of a group. They can still be a part of a group and still contribute something. That's what they need to realize. Like
Right.
they're not just an enigma. They have a purpose. And just self-acceptance is a huge deal for this placement as well, because it helps empower them. It helps show them that all the extremes that they were dealing with in behavior, it does show them that they can put an end to it now because it doesn't have any like value. It doesn't have a place anymore. There's no need for them to act like a 4-year-old crying
Right.
for a piece of candy. There's really no need for that. So
Interesting. Very, very interesting. And yeah, I think something that just helped them is just being more vocal about when they need to do things on their own, but also letting people know that, oh, I'm not forgetting about you. I just need this for me to
yeah,
feel like I'm still that'll really help them out a lot versus what I've experienced and noticed with a lot of them is they'll really uh start like attacking or clamming up when you try to say, like, ask them, like, oh, do you need, why you've been distant lately, or why are you doing this and that? They'll run. They have this tendency to just run instead of like explaining themselves to people, which they don't
yeah,
understand.
hiding away. Yeah.
Absolutely. They don't understand that that's off putting to people that want to be close to them and people that actually care. They don't really see how that's off putting, but that's something that they need to
Or they
uh
go out and do a lot of partying or go to a lot of social gatherings, and to the point that they're exhausted and they really shouldn't be doing any of that
yep.
for themselves. Or it'll be like almost like a ritualistic day for them to do the exact same thing, that same pattern that really doesn't do any beneficial good for them.
Right.
And that cycle will continue repeating itself until they figure out that's the imbalancement, or somebody actually alerts them like, hey, you're awesome, but this
Yep.
does need to be fixed. Do you notice this? Do you
Yep.
feel this? And then they're like, oh, they're talking about me. Individualism. I love it. And they will express it because it's been open, it's granted.
Yeah.
So
It's a strange thing, but I mean, it's something that they definitely should consider. It's really strange with Aquarius because it's kind of hard to really fully understand an Aquarius anyway. But if they use these things that me and Gabby just said, or just read and learn more about themselves, I think it's something that could really help them. So
yeah,
let's talk
honestly,
about
just
the
learning about this energy helps so much with your personal growth as well as what you are around other people.
absolutely. I agree. Let's talk about the dramatic divas of the group. And that's, of course, if y'all haven't figured out by now, Leos. Lilith and Leo loses themselves in trying to impress others. There is an almost subconscious habit of shape shifting with Lilith and Leo. They use their skill at reading body language to identify what a person wants and then manipulate their personalities to fit that ideal. Interest. That's really weird. I would have thought that would have been like a Gemini thing or something, but I guess. What say you, Gabby?
Yeah, that's definitely something that they tend to overdo, especially when they're like in that imbalanced process of still figuring out what works for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, The thing is, this shame and like discomfort they feel from being that way in front of people on accident, it almost is like a subconscious mentality. It really doesn't like they don't realize it until it's being told to them, and then they feel embarrassed or ashamed. Now there's ways that they can help kind of like take care of that imbalancement, which is usually just accepting themselves. Like self-acceptance is a huge motivator for them. It's also very empowering because then they can find an actual better outlet for them to get the praise that they're looking for. Without being so like, oh, I blurt this out and I'm expecting a response back and nothing's happening.
Right.
And it's not very mutually reciprocated.
Right.
So that does help a lot with that placement. Especially.
Interesting. Yeah. And yeah, what you just said pretty much, it sounds like it basically explains Leo to a T with a lot of them, a lot of their issues and a lot of them trying to like overextend themselves or stretch themselves. The thing comes down to the fact of just self-acceptance. Like they want to be really accepted and look, I'm bright and I'm awesome and you should love me for this, that, and that. But the advice Gabby just gave you can exactly help you with those issues because you speak to a person that has a lot of Leo placements in my chart, and that's something I struggled with as I matured and going past my formative years and now in my official adult because I just turned 30. To me, you ain't really an adult until you're like 28 going into 30. Like I just got grown. You know what I mean? Like so it's just something that I had to get over until I really start looking into self and studying my chart and spirit, and I didn't realize a lot of this, but I had a lot of those Leo issues and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely something I've learned. Now we officially finished up what's the official word for a group of four? It's not quartet. Is a quartet of five? A group of five? How do you say a group of four again? What's the word for that?
I think it is a
Is it quartet?
So you have twins, triplets, quadruplets, or a quartet, 4 people. Yeah,
Okay.
And then you have
for 5 quintuplets or something for 5. Is it 5 for quintuplets or is that 8?
I know I think it is Quinn. Yeah, Quinn is 5. Yeah, thank you, Ash.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I know a lot of it has to do with alphabet. Because with certain words, the alphabet gives it away. Like when you see anything with try or trip, it's 3. Because that's I think in most languages, try or something means.
I think they just do six triplets. I think.
You might be right.
Sextuplets, something like that. It's like E.
I
like
think
an E or an I.
Sept is 7 because in French I think sept something and
septuplets. Yeah, that's 7.
Yeah.
And then 8 is ox something.
Yeah, exactly. Because octagon, it means 8 corners.
Yeah, they were trying to like bring that in there from the Greek stuff. So
absolutely. So we finished our first quartet of the fixed signs. Now we're moving on to the quartet of mutable signs, and we're starting with the water, which is Pisces. I would imagine there'd be some type of dreamy twist to this because Pisces and emotions go hand in hand. They experience every emotion you probably think of on this planet. They felt it at one point or another. Water signs in general, but I feel like Pisces are probably the most prolific because they change. They're mutable, so they're able to change and blend in. And yeah, oh, here we go. Eric's in the house. What's up, Eric? That very piercing pit. I love that picture, man. You look like you're about to make a movie or something. I really love that picture. So Lilith and Pisces. Lilith in Pisces prefers fantasy over reality. Lilith in Pisces uses sex as a form of escapism. Her, or in this case his, emotions can be deeply repressed, and she is often in denial. She's consumed by her fantasies, and it's important that she draws a line between fantasy and reality as a part of karmic duty. Pisces in general are very dreamy, and a lot of people associate this with a negative connotation. It can be if it goes too out of whack. Let's keep in mind, we're talking about it in terms of moderation. Anything could be bad if it's overdone. But I really enjoy Pisces different look on things and different perception. They have a good way of making people feel comfortable or feeling involved for their uniqueness. And I think that's something that needs to be more appreciated. My biggest issue with Pisces a lot of the times is when you try to help them refine their idea or really help them make them feel okay with their issues or their emotions, that's when they're kind of like, nah, they'll push you away type thing. Because my best friend's a Pisces, and he's opened up more to me over the last 7 years. Now we're cool. He talks to me about everything, and I can read him. But prior to that, he was kind of clammy and not really telling me much and all of that. So that's something I just wish Pisces would do a little better. But
Yeah.
I love their dreaminess and ways of looking at things from a lot of different angles, and they shouldn't be made to feel that it's weird that they look at things like that. But I just wish they helped themselves as much as they helped other people. But what say you, Gabby, about the Pisces Lilith?
Pisces Lilith. Well, they definitely seem to like have this like it's kind of it still has to be based on like their typical understanding of like spirituality for them, because that's really close to their heart. They're very passionate about that side of themselves.
Mm.
But it can kind of tend to, if they are felt ashamed or put off by just needing something, like being needy or compassionate, it can kind of feel like they are being a little wishy-washy because they're protecting themselves. They feel uncomfortable. And they can also get really annoyed with people who seem to resist a label that they have put towards that feeling. Like if that feeling doesn't feel like it's resonating with that other person, even though that's how they're feeling, it can sometimes cause a little bit of discord, which makes them feel, oh, like should I take the lead? Should I not take the lead? Should I not be assertive? Should I not be assertive on the situation? And that can definitely just lead them to be a little bit more extreme in their behavior. Sometimes they can repeat patterns that can sometimes be more of like they're like binging something or starting to purge something just because of that imbalancement. Because of them being such a supposed to be a very balanced sign in the sense, because of the whole yin and yang factor with the fish and stuff. Like they have a light side and a dark side of themselves, just like every other sign. But it's clinging to their beliefs still. So that spiritual side of themselves really does help rebalance and reshape everything. But the key is moderation. It's always about moderation for Pisces, just because it helps rebalance and reconfigure everything back to normal. And also just remembering that you are empowered because you have self-acceptance. Having self-acceptance really does help Pisces as a whole, because it takes away that like unconscious fear of being the way they were always meant to be. So like them being needy is actually their body telling them that something's imbalanced. That energy is there for a purpose. Them being passionate about something that they're spiritually connected to, that can look many different ways for a lot of different signs depending on where their balancement is. Which then they can tend to veer off that and make it seem like they're kind of two-faced almost, because they're masking that part to protect themselves, but at the same time they're really meaning exactly what they're saying. It just doesn't seem the way it is for the people that are looking outside looking in. So yeah, it's just about moderation, empowerment, and just understanding that empowerment and moderation comes from accepting yourself. Self-acceptance is key. You don't need everybody else telling you, hey, you're awesome. But it does help you, because you do have that tendency to need a little bit of encouragement. That neediness comes in forms of words of encouragement most of the time.
So. Interesting. Yeah. That's really good. And Eric has been very responsive here in the comment section. Yeah. He's saying hello to everybody.
That's amazing that you're working on that, hun. That's awesome.
Glad. Yeah, I'm glad you're always working on something. And, I love when people are always trying to reinvent themselves and get better and elevate themselves. And it's a lot of good people on here that's doing a lot of good things. And I want to just encourage everybody. Eric, man, keep it up. Keep up the whole art group, because I feel like he's Eric's done a lot of things that people don't know, and he was very influential in talking to the team, the HAPS team, of getting everybody able to be sponsored. Because prior to that, you have to have this ridiculous amount of views consistently. And I was like, dude, first of all, Haps is still in beta mode, which means a
Yeah.
lot of people hasn't got on it yet to make it where you can have 500 concurrent viewers. That was not going to happen unless you're like one of the big people that been on here since the inception of this app. That's not likely to happen. So I'm glad that Eric was able to really help and stay on these people about it. He was literally in with hours and hours hanging out with them. Like I'm here to wait. If y'all just going to keep saying I gotta wait, I'll wait, and then they finally, acquiesce, and he was able to get that implemented. So a lot of people don't know that, but Eric was very influential in getting that done. So I appreciate things like that. He was also very influential with the art community on here. A lot of people, one of the first people I saw doing any type of real art was him. I think Dez was on there, and I think I met Gabby that way. I think I met you on a video with indirectly with it was either Eric and Dez or Dez and somebody else. That's how I originally
I've done a couple like I've hopped on just to be like a part of the group. Just to like, because I knew a couple people in the groups that were more sponsored by Dez and Helga.
Yeah.
Because we were from a totally different community on YouTube when I first kind of like thought everything out.
Were you ever on Periscope, Gabs?
No.
Okay, so
I didn't even know Periscope existed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it started in. It had a short run. It was at like 6 years or something. It started in 5 years, 15, and it ended by 20. So it had a very, very short run. It was owned by Twitter though. It was they were owned by Twitter after they.
Yeah,
like
I was very technologically illiterate for a lot of my adult life. Like I got a Facebook page when I was like 16 or 17.
Really?
I was very sheltered for good reasons. And at least from the point of view of my parents. And I think that it did help a lot with my perception of things. Like I could see for myself what those comfortabilities for myself would be like in the real world, so that I could reflect that for the internet world
now,
at the time.
I don't know a whole lot about Jewish culture that much based on outside of the stuff that I've read in certain pop culture stuff, but is that a religious thing where your parents don't want you to be on certain sites or something?
It was more of a personal preference from my mother specifically, because she had her moments of rebelling back in her time. It was kind of like there was all these new outlets to be a little bit more vocal when you were in a process of understanding yourself and maturing, and she didn't want us to just instantly find other people who were kind of pushing that same drama and leading us down a path that we wouldn't be able to come back from. It wasn't really about like, oh, there's these cyber like predators or whatever. That part didn't really bother her as much because she knew we knew what was wrong and what was right from what she and my dad taught us. So that part wasn't really like a big deal because we were very mature. A lot of the kids in my family were very mature at very young ages. So she could see that we were respectfully trying to do exactly what the house rules were, but also be ourselves in the way that they tried to push us towards. And after a while, some of their values just didn't add up to how we were finding ourselves.
Right.
But there were like upgrades or perks to being older. Like you got to have your first cell phone if you had a job. Like I had babysitting, so I got my first cell phone around that time. But I still had to share it with my siblings, even though I was pretty much the only one that used it.
Right.
Because what if my younger sibling needed to ask my parents for a homework problem and they weren't there? And they didn't want to deal with us. They'd want to go talk to mom and dad. So it kind of is like one of those kind of scenarios in our family at that time.
Interesting. Okay. Wow, that's really interesting. I love learning about all these different things. And let's catch up here in the chat. Yeah, I just saw Greg. He's on his way to see the other half.
Yes, he's off to see Allie, his fiance. They're getting married in a couple weeks. So
who is Greg?
Greg Prescott is from a like a broadcast that was going on. It's called In 5D. And he started a YouTube channel promoting some more spiritual point of views and perspectives that he's learned on his journey throughout life. And he's got a lot of things that, like, they're really beautiful perspectives. You have to have a very open mind to really understand some of the stuff that's coming out. But it's all meant with love. It's really just a beautiful community. They really do share different points of views, and they try to be very neutral for the most part. But a lot of people have their reservations sometimes in the chat. But it's just because everybody's learning themselves. Sometimes we start learning ourselves even later than 30 or 40. We go until like 60 or 70 and we're like, oh shit, I can finally be myself. My parents are dead, or my siblings are no longer in the way of my life. There's just random like life changes that just magically just make things more available that we thought were a barrier, and they really weren't. We just happened to make that a reality on like through those choices and changes. So,
and the complex part of the situation is everybody matures slower. Everybody has a different pace. I shouldn't say slower, but everybody has a different pace at which they mature. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's true, Gabs, but is it just in the generic sense? Do fire and air signs mature slower than other people?
I think just depends on the placement. Like if it's in a certain house, like certain houses, they seem to mature very slowly. Especially since that area that they're expanded in doesn't really give them a lot of room to grow until they get a little bit more at an age bracket that allows that in their experience. Some families allow that to grow, and some families restrict that as long as possible, and it makes it they start feeling a little bit more reserved and naive and not really understanding where that's coming from because they haven't found the root of it because of those situations. So it takes like a little bit of time for them to maybe dig a little deeper and see where that stems from, like that blockage that they've made a reality for themselves. And this is just perspective from a lot of different healing that I've done for myself, as well as people that I know that would be willing to share their stories too. So like, it's just one of those things where a lot of us, we go through walks of life and cycles of life that we only felt like we had two choices. And this is kind of where Lilith comes into play too. This kind of explains that scenario, the energetic way of that scenario, because we've been energetically suppressed. Or energetically felt a certain type of way. And that's what this is showing, is that just because those parts are there, there's always going to be an antidote, an energetic antidote, or a mindset you can push towards to bring that healing and that closure. It isn't always the other person's fault that you felt that way. It's usually just because their opinions manifested into something more physical and meaningful to you that you didn't like take recognition that wasn't yours to take. And then when you get to that mentality, it's so much easier for you to let go people's opinions that don't reflect or push towards you. Like you don't feel any connection to them because they're not your true self. You know your true self now. And that's the cool thing about some of these signs are all about self-acceptance in this category of this energetic push. So it kind of just gives that second layer of understanding that you are okay the way you are. Just because you're imbalanced doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you complete or unwhole. It literally is just reminding you that there's always room for improvement.
Interesting. Very interesting, man. Gabby just laid down the gospel there. Yeah, that was some pretty heavy stuff. And Eric here says, my Lilith placement is so prolific, and I asked him where it is. Fourth house, so Cancer. It's in the Cancer. That's for the fourth house is Cancer. Interesting. Nice. Yeah, that's definitely an add on. So you're already a water sign anyway, so that definitely adds
If
more
it's
to
the
the
fourth
spirituality.
house, yeah, it might be in Cancer. Sometimes the houses reflect the sign, but not necessarily. With Lilith as it being a point of energy. Um, so it may have to deal with another layer of it. Like, so if you look in your chart, if it turns out to be a different sign than the house that it's associated with, that doesn't mean it's not right. Because all these particular Liliths all can be applied to the same to a house. Like, so a Lilith in Cancer can be a fourth house. So if his is Capricorn and it's in the fourth house, then he's going to have some of the descriptions for a Lilith in Cancer, like the attributes of a Lilith in Cancer, because it also can apply to a fourth house Lilith.
Ah, interesting. Okay, that's very interesting.
So if they're both Capricorn, and is Capricorn mutable? Is that Cardinal?
That's the cardinal sign. Yeah.
Okay,
Cardinal.
we're not Cardinal yet. But when we get there, guys, keep your eyes and ears peeled, because that will definitely help you.
Yep. We'll be there in the next few minutes. That you just listen out when we say Capricorn.
Yeah, keep your eyes peeled, guys.
Yep. Because we actually just right after Gabby's finished that we were just about to get back on track. Because I don't want people to get too, antsy that we haven't really got back on. But we do like to take breaks in between. It makes everything more digestible when we take breaks.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I want to open this up more. Now, if you guys wasn't talking as much, we'll be going through this material so it won't be so much
like rapid fire. But I love that you guys are engaging.
Absolutely.
I think TJ agrees too. This really does help us see where all that's leading to for you guys, because this actually means that this is probably the perfect opportunity for you to see a different perspective of yourselves. And that means you're ready to heal whatever that needs to be given to you. So that's awesome. Congratulations, guys. You're growing.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Especially going into Friday when everybody's going to make a lot of irresponsible decisions, probably. You know what I mean? Like, not that unwinding a bit is bad, but a lot of people do tend to make, questionable decisions under alcohol. I've done it. Gabby's probably done. Everybody's done it. You know what I mean? It's about learning. We've all made mistakes. You know what I mean? So that this is the perfect time. We might be on to something with this Friday thing, because I've noticed the last couple Fridays we've done this have been very interactive. Because I remember the almost burned into my mind the Fridays that they always tend to be interactive. So maybe there's something when the time is right. We probably won't always be able to do it on Fridays, and we'll always make up for that on like a Wednesday if we don't. Because Fridays get complex. A lot of family things happen on Friday. Something can happen with Gabs and the children. So I don't want to put it there, concrete, but it's something I'm definitely entertaining. But me and Gabby got to, of course, agree on it. We got to come to terms on it. So I'll let y'all know by next week what day we finally decide to put it on. Because I'm getting ready to go back to work full time. I'll still be on here. Anybody that know me know I'm a workhorse, but I'm still like in the next 2 weeks.
Moderation though, TJ. We gotta put that in moderation for you.
Oh yeah. God made me into like a robot. I don't know how. Like, it's just like I don't know how I'm able to do all this. But you're right. I probably should practice a lot more moderation. I'm falling asleep on the couch. Oh man, we're gonna have to put on some music for Ash.
We need to hype up the volume here.
Yeah, we're gonna have to hype it up. Or maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we make you feel relaxed where you can process the information while you sleep or something.
Yeah, maybe it's time for that like deep dive for you, like that astral travel moment where you're getting all the information while you're sleeping.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Glad to catch you tonight, because I thought yesterday I missed you guys Wednesday. No, we didn't. We haven't. We took a couple things came up, Eric, where we had to take a few weeks of a break, and this is our first day back in probably like 2 or 3 weeks. This is our first
in 2 weeks. Yeah, we had to cancel the week before because my kids decided to change. In the sense of like the seasons kind of made them not feel good. So they had a cold for a couple of days, and I wasn't really sure if it was wise for me to just jump on and be super person. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop myself and I'm just going to focus on what needs to get my attention for the most attention right now. And it was my kids. And then he had something going on. I'm just like,
Absolutely.
okay, that means that's definitely a sign from like spirit. Like, okay, that means we just gotta like let that go, let it go. It's okay. There's no fear or worry about that situation. We can take it up the next week. And then this week, it was just like, you know what? Friday would be better for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, okay, yeah, Friday, let's do it. Like we both agreed on it. And I was like, yeah, sure, 5:00 sounds good. And then we decided 6:00 because there was a little bit of traffic coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, other than that, we did good.
Absolutely. So you're good, Eric. You didn't miss anything, and
Nope.
I always keep in mind the people I know that like not to miss the show. So I'll give you like a friendly reminder, like, "Hey, we'll be on at this time. If you want to come over, nudge, nudge." So I'm usually pretty good at keeping on top of stuff like that. Something
Yeah,
I've
same
learned.
on my stuff too. Like if you
Absolutely.
guys want to check out the Facebook page or any of that stuff, we'll show that stuff later. But
Yes.
it definitely, most of that stuff's always updated as fast as I get the information.
Mm-hmm.
I try to make sure you guys get as much information. What Tate is telling me, if he can't post right away for y'all, it will be on my stuff as well.
And I don't know if y'all know Brandy Singleton, but I want to get her on one of these at some point. Gaps, I'm not sure if you met Brandy before. She's at San Diego.
I've heard of her. I saw her tagged on something. I tried clicking on it and your post like disappeared.
I probably took it down for
Probably.
it could be a litany of reasons why I took it down, but yeah, I probably did. So yeah, I want to try to get Brand on at some point. And me and her are kind of doing a YouTube thing like once a week, Mondays. I actually got something coming up on Monday, but we're trying to, because she's really heavy on YouTube, and some of her people wanted me to work with them over there a little bit. But we're gonna try to get her on here one day. The last time, actually, we tried to get on here Monday, and we had like the worst problems ever. Like, the sound was bad, like it wouldn't load. Her mic was messing up. It was just we couldn't do it, so we had to go to StreamYard and YouTube last week. But I try to post the links here on Haps, but they have a hard time processing stuff. So we try to work it out, and that's probably the one that Gabby said got deleted, because I probably just saw, like, I can't put this up with the quality that it is, and I probably just took it down or whatever. So I subscribed to her, but I had to look at her again to refresh my memory. Yeah. Brandy's pretty. She's knows some stuff like Gabby. Like she gets deep into. She focuses more on the social realm of things. But as far as astrology, she's pretty profound when it comes to the social side of things versus astrology. She goes in like Gabby, but on social issues or whatever. So she's pretty. I'm gonna try to get her on here one day when the time permits. She's busy a lot at nights, but one of these afternoons, I'll probably have to try to get her to come on or something like that.
Yeah, I and if that's what needs to happen, I'll try to make that possible so I can say hi to her at least. Let her know that we appreciate her.
Yeah, and I think she's aware of you. I think she's seen you before, so
okay.
I think the feeling's pretty mutual or whatever. So
awesome.
Let's push forward with the thing here. And we're on the very Mercurial Virgo. So Lilith in Virgo. Lilith is an obsessive perfectionist, which generally associates with a Virgo anyway, who is hypercritical about her hygiene. In the bedroom, she is a sexual servant who enjoys degrading sex. What? This went really weird. However, this can be a struggle, as Lilith in Virgo sometimes suffers from sexual shame and repression. What say you, Gabs?
That is very true. And that can be even with projects, like things that they want to like perfect as in a skill as well. Just because they're always like going through a lot of growing pains when they're feeling that ashamed and put offness and being told they're wrong about why they're not proved to be ordinary. Like they're always worried that they have to prove themselves all the time. And they're always concerned about like making sure that the details are there so they don't get shamed for it. Which can be very overwhelming. And that kind of can like tend to show a lot of darker sides of a Virgo, because they start to like have a lot of extreme behavior the pickiness that sometimes they have towards things that they enjoy or don't enjoy, that can sometimes vary. And the reason why they probably brought up sex is because there's like 3 different Liliths technically in the astrology land. There's technically a hidden 4th one. But the Black Moon one is definitely one that gets talked about a lot. And it gets kind of miscued with the asteroid Lilith, which can be also considered called a black moon as well, even though it's not actually a black moon. So that's probably what they brought that up for. If you look in your chart too, TJ, when it says black moon on the very bottom, it should pop up, or wherever the sign is like corresponded. If you guys have Time Nomad, this is like a really cool tip for that as well. They have it on Apple, and they also have a website that you can look it up on Google. And I'll type it in the chat for you guys. But there's a part of it where it kind of shows the differences. There's only 2 differences on this particular app, though, that they show. And they try to separate it the best they can from what they have on hand from NASA and the satellites that they use to make sure everything's evened out. But the sign kind of shows like a dark, like a moon with a cross. And that's considered more of the sensual part of the Lilith emotional energy. And so there's different like versions of it that can kind of give more of a sensual understanding, because Lilith can be considered pointed towards sensuality. It doesn't actually mean that it's 100% about it. It just shows you the parts and pieces of your sensuality that can kind of gratify not only yourself, but the people that you've made a relationship with, like your coworkers or people that you have meaningful unions with. It kind of gives you that ability to kind of show them this beautiful infatuation that you shouldn't be ashamed about, and that most of us have been suppressed on that stuff. Now that can be from past relationships that have made that look the way it has. And that could also be the dynamics in the workplace that made you feel like you had to hide certain parts of yourself, or codes of conduct that there was a lot of loopholes that people used that you didn't feel comfortable. That it's just a lot of like random shit that kind of brings that into perspective. But I do find it really interesting that the one that you had did pop that out there.
Yeah, that's quite. It was funny.
Yeah, it works out though, because it really does. It's a very interesting concept. When it comes with sexuality, a lot of us are still learning what that is for ourselves. Especially since there's been a lot of different values and understandings of what that is, especially in the world that we live in today. So a lot of us are, if you have like a Lilith in Taurus or in Scorpio, you'll most likely be taking ownership of those issues, and finding ways to make them healthier for yourself after you balance those out. If you have a Lilith in Aries or a Libra, you kind of are trying to take domination because you've had to be a sub most of your life. So there's lots little stuff like that. It has shades of sexuality. So that's another fun tip for that. But yeah, for a Virgo, it is usually just about the details, paying attention to detail and organization parts that can be showing signs of imbalancement if it comes to disarray, like if they're not their normal, like go lucky selves, or like just enjoying themselves as a whole. And it's also just working on self-acceptance, especially for this particular sign, because if they've been shamed or put off on them being the way they are, it can definitely prove to them that they may not be able to be normal. And that gives them an opportunity to say, I can accept myself for that. That self-acceptance can show another layer of healing and close that chapter for them. So something to
Interesting.
like.
I actually just found, and you'll be able to help me with this. Maybe the last few minutes of the video, I
Mhm.
actually finally found because I didn't thoroughly go through the site, but I was telling you about that site Astro Guy. Who he's a great YouTuber too.
Uh-huh.
Not Astro Guy, but astrology guy. I forget his real name, but if you type in astrology guy on YouTube, he can kind of help you with like the early bite size understanding stuff of YouTube. And then if you like more videos versus reading, he's the perfect person. We'll play one of his videos just as a sample so y'all can kind of see. And a tad bit when we finish up with Lilith, then we'll play it, then we'll go into Vertex. And then towards the end, I'll read my house. I actually just found out my houses, Gab. I found them by accident. But I found it through
Oh,
Astrology
awesome.
Guy's website. Because I knew all my base level stuff. I put my chart up a few weeks back. But apparently my Mercury, I already know it's in Cancer, but it's in the sixth house. So it makes me extra dramatic because the sixth house is I'm sorry, not the sixth house, but the fifth house, which is Leo. So I have a Mercury in Cancer, but it's in the fifth house to Leo. So that makes me speak way more dramatic. Then my Mars is also in Leo, but my Mars is in the sixth house, which is Virgo. And
Mm-hmm.
Virgos and Leos are kind of known for having like being image conscious and very kind of they would like to do things perfect so people could see them well. So that makes
Yeah.
a lot more sense. But I didn't know any of my houses until I just dug in that report a little bit or whatever because I've been having some trouble with time nomad. I'm gonna have to have Gabby help me with that because I don't really know how to read it. It kind of looks like a damn putting a car engine together or something. I don't really know how to read it. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Honestly, like it's one of those things like once you get it, you can't get rid of it. Like
right.
it's like diving into the Matrix for the first time for like Neo and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I got this." And you're just
Right.
like all these superpowers are here and you're just like, "Whoa."
And then
It's
to most people, you're perceived as that annoying fuck that think you know everything. Like when you go to yoga, it was a Family Guy joke, and I think this applies to the episode, so I tell it here. It was a family. By most definitions, I'm kind of despised by Seth MacFarlane because he's kind of a sexist pig, and he's very, very like petty. But he uses Family Guy to kind of like he needs a lot of counseling. Let's just put it like that. Seth MacFarlane is a very, very strange man. His concept of comedy is really, really weird, and he obviously has an issue with women because the way they treated Meg on that show tells you what he think about women. But he's a very he has his moments where I was like, that was quite clever. And one of those
very
situations,
evolutionary.
yes, he is. I think he has a lot of he has to have a in his birth chart because he's a Scorpio, but he has to have a lot of like Sagittarius. I'm sorry, not Sag, but a Gemini and Aquarius somewhere in his chart because he's very, very quirky or whatever. But he's very if I had to guess, it's probably Aquarius, probably. But without just not knowing his chart, just knowing the way he is, he has to have some type of Aquarius somewhere in his chart. But he's a very, very strange man, and the one of the funniest things I saw, it was a skit with like a flashback with Stewie and Brian, which tends to be the episodes I enjoy the most when I catch Family Guy. I don't watch it nearly as much as I did when I was in high school because now that I'm older and I see stuff for what it is, it's not that good when you like I look at it through my current eyes. But the good episodes, one that I really remembered that was hilarious was when he was trying to get Brian back to normal because Brian had failed a SAT test for Meg and he felt bad. He started to become like pretty much like adult. He wasn't intelligent anymore. And
Yeah.
Stewie was trying to get him back to normal. He was like, I'm gonna take you to one of these activities that smart people do instead of go to church. And he was like, it's called yoga. And he was like, when you're done, you're gonna be impossible to be around and nobody's gonna like you and whatever. And I just thought that was a hilarious yoga joke. But obviously, anybody that knows Seth MacFarlane know he's an atheist. So that's why he kind of jabs
He's got
Christianity.
Scorpio. So he's a Scorpio sun, a Scorpio moon,
Mm-hmm.
a Scorpio Mercury. His Venus is in Sag. He's got a Mars in Taurus. Um, Jupiter is Aquarius. Saturn is Cancer. Um, Uranus is Libra. Neptune is Sagittarius. Pluto is in Libra. And his north node is Capricorn. And his wound is in Aries, which is Chiron.
Yep, Chiron. Yep. I need to find my Chiron because I don't know what it is. I need to find. I'm very interested in finding. If I had to guess, it's probably in a water sign because it's probably Scorpio. My spirit tells me it's Scorpio, even though I don't know what it is. But I got a feeling it's in Scorpio.
Yeah.
Um, because I didn't know what Chiron was until Gabs told me. I thought Chiron was a car that I'll never be able to afford. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah. Honestly, Chiron is very interesting. It usually comes up with a symbol that looks like a key. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like a K symbol with like a line that goes down from the long stem of the K and turns into a circle.
Sure.
It's based off of a beautiful mythology of a healer that was a centaur, and his
Mm-hmm.
name was Chiron. And he happened to be wounded by an arrow, and it was on his hip, I think. And that was showing that even he couldn't heal that wound unless he looked at it from a different angle because of the way he had to position himself. So, yeah, it's very interesting.
So people, my moon is either in Aquarius or Pisces, which is damn near the same thing, but it's in one or the other. But I'm still waiting for my mom to give me my exact birth time because I cannot find my birth certificate. But the last time she told me, I'm almost sure I was born at like 6 o'clock at night. And when I put
You
that
have
in
pretty
as the
good
around,
memory.
well, I mean, I'm a Cancer, so that's probably part of it. I don't know, but she the last time we talked, which was in like 2015, that we talked about my thing that I remember being around her. This one I was still kind of living with her, but
Uh-huh.
I think she told me I was born at 6 o'clock at night. And when I typed that in, it said Pisces. But when I put unknown birth, it says Aquarius. So I'm one or the other. My moons are one or the other. I feel like I'm more like an Aquarius. So I'm kind of like forward thinking a lot and kind of like futuristic. So I'm leaning more. But Pisces can be that way too a little bit. So it's one or the other. I mean, I have it's
Yeah,
one or the
depending on where the house it's stemming from, probably like the expansion of that particular wound, that might actually like look for where Aquarius may be ruling from, and that's probably the house that you're feeling off of
Okay. This one
for
I'm gonna
that
do really
Pisces.
quickly because
Yeah,
when I changed my numbers, it erased a lot of the apps, and I have not put time nomad. But what I can do real quickly is I can look up they have a web browser one, right, Gaps?
I do believe so. Yeah.
Let me try to download the web browser one because I do have a Windows, and it looked like they got it in the App Store. So I'm gonna download
Mhm.
this quick, and then I'm gonna try to figure out what this. No, it's actually not available on Apple Store. Give me the one for goddamn Windows then. Let me see. Windows, because
I don't think it has a Windows.
they don't have a Windows one. Okay,
Not that I'm aware of.
I can download it quick on my phone because I have an iPhone, so I can do it on my
Yeah,
phone.
I do know that they have a website more for like yeah, it's called timenomad.app.
Time nomad.
And that kind of gives you a how the features, how to use the app. They have a blog and a forum on what to expect with the app, and they always do this really cool thing. If you hear my phone like ping
Mm-hmm.
sometimes where it's saying like Venus or um, Mars, whatever name that you've like claimed as the personal name that you want alerts from, it will tell you what the transitioning is for the day. Um, and it's kind of cool to kind of see where all of that like fluctuates because this is all ran from like instant accuracy from the satellites up in our solar system.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever information they can't get from those, they get it from the satellites from NASA, which is super cool. Um, and it does have like this really cool thing for like your chart for now. So it does show you like how everything is reacting in accurate in like real time, which is super awesome. Um, it's definitely a lot different than other apps because it's a lot of information thrown at once. But once you like go down through like bits and pieces of it, it starts to like give you the definition of what that is, like what that planet stands for, like what's the symbology of it, how far away it is from the next planet that it's supposed to be from, and
Mm-hmm.
it gives you a lot of scientific details, which I find very fascinating.
Absolutely, I agree. I really agree, and I got the app here. So as we'll go along, I'll put my information in, and
Hmm.
I might have Gabby do like a little mock thing. But really quickly, something I can bring up on the screen, and then we'll get back to Lilith or whatever. We making this one very special for y'all because we missed a couple
Hmm.
weeks,
We
so we're
missed you
gonna
guys. Let's just put it that way. We missed you guys.
right. So we're gonna do a couple different things over here. So and we're still pretty good. We're only at 75 minutes, so we're not doing horribly
Yeah,
bad.
we're doing pretty well. I think we're doing great.
Because I would have thought we would have been over here about the goddamn 2.5 hours by now. But um, so what we have here is that I'm putting up. I just want Gabby to explain to me what these shapes are. Can you see this on the big screen, Gab?
Okay. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so I'm gonna just hover over things. And I'm gonna ask you what are they. This is obvious what this is. What is this symbol right here?
The next word over, it's opposition.
No, no, I mean like what's this shape?
Oh, it's just connect. It's like two polar opposites trying to join together, but they're connected, but they're not connected. That's what
Okay,
opposition is. You're fighting against something that shouldn't be connected. Kind of
okay,
like a magnet. It's the negative and positive
I got you.
scenario there. Um, Opposition with each other usually means there's like a little bit of a friction between it.
Mhm.
Um, so like it doesn't mean that they're not supposed to be like they're not cohesively working together, but there's a lesson to be learned with that opposition.
Got you. Is it
Um,
like two people that usually when dating each other and working it out? Is that like an analogy for it?
uh, yes and no. Because sometimes you do want that. It depends on like if they have more of a um an Aquarius outlook. Because like you like the individuality, you want them to have that individuality. Everybody should be able to have equal individuality. That's
Hmm.
like the vibe of an opposition.
Okay,
They want everybody to be happy, but there's something about it that just doesn't click with the system that they put up, and it's starting to show.
okay. So the next thing, so these little symbols basically just correlate with the word to the next to it, right? That's all it
Yeah,
is.
it correlates to the word on the right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what is orb and value? What does all this have to do with anything?
Okay, orb is basically well, according to this particular chart, orb's technically the degrees of where it was connected to the chart. So like the transitioning of the planet or the star as it was transitioning through our lovely spinning of Earth.
Gotcha. And the value is that in the same breath, or
Value is like the longitude and latitude. Like if you're
okay?
like looking at like a map,
Mm,
it's kind of similar to that.
interesting.
There's a negative and a positive with the equator.
Mm,
That's kind of showing that version of it.
gotcha. Okay. So this is so. Does this correlate to anything in my chart? Can I like look at this and like, oh well, Cancer was here at this degree. Does that have anything to do when I'm reading my chart?
Um,
Like,
that's another yes and no. There's a beautiful symbology for the degrees of how it's been placed because if it's more on the beginning stages of its transition, you can kind of see where there's still a maturity that needs to grow from it.
mhm,
As it gets closer to like the more like in the middle of its like transition, it's pretty similar to the three phases of the moon, like the moon goddess. Like you have your child, your your woman, and then your like grandma or crone.
mhm.
So it kind of shows that kind of like triad um, mentality when it comes to the degrees, similar to each sign. Each sign has the soul base of what it is, and then you have your subconscious and your conscious.
Mm, okay.
Your subconscious is going to be your more of your like how you were kind of as an adolescent or a child. Your soul is your womanhood or your manhood becoming of age tale, like you start to actually feel truly yourself. And
Yeah.
then as you get older, it's the experience. So the conscious is your experience.
Got you. That's interesting. Yeah, that
Mhm.
just sounds like your genetic evolution. That sounds really interesting. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's why I don't understand why so many people think, "Oh, that's nonsense." I'm like, all this stuff is based off actual scientific research, right? Like they
It's based
literally
on
track
a
this
lot
stuff.
of information that was passed down from generation to generation, because a
Mhm.
lot of tribes and very huge cultural groups, they had a lot of their stuff based on scientific um, professions. So you get to see a lot of, like, you saw a lot of engineering in some of the cultures that we've grown up learning about, and we've also seen a lot of the exploits of what that would be with just experimenting, becoming an alchemist,
Mhm.
understanding the counterbalances of what works and what doesn't. Why
Right,
doesn't it not work? Because of the balance, the formula. The formula
right.
doesn't work. And that's what kind of is so cool about us growing and maturing and pushing forward with the knowledge that we're looking at right now, even what we're staring at right now in our face with this chart here. You get to see the counterbalance of what is there to work
Mhm.
and what has worked during the transition of your birth.
Mhm.
So your soul, literally at the time that you were in conception with your family, that literal line that you've become as a child is literally staring you right in the face.
Right.
There's bits and pieces that you may have had a hard time with, like the conjunction, your passion, like the way you love and want to be loved was always in conjunct with your drive.
Hmm.
And that's the same thing with the Jupiter section as well. It had to be about what you were passionate about, what you loved, what you perceived to have getting back for your own love.
Hmm.
And that's a really cool concept right there for you,
Yeah.
as well as your drive for your Jupiter as well. It's one of those similar things. Um, I don't remember what squared is, but it's definitely that, like, I think I remember from past research, it has to do with like um everything is balancedly laid out, like the measurement is laid out
Yeah.
for it to be at its highest perfection at that time. Um I'll have to look at a better definition for it. But
Okay.
yeah, harmonic. Yeah, thank you. Ash, I love you so much. Thank you for
Yeah,
calling
she's
me.
awesome. Yeah, Ash is great.
Thank you so much for the award too. This
Yeah.
helps TJ out so much, as well as myself, who kind of
Mhm.
share stuff like this to each other.
Yeah.
Like any of the stuff that comes through here, it gets shared between the both of us. So we
Yep.
really appreciate it.
Mhm.
I think sextile is kind of like a version of combustion in a sense, because there's so many points where it can be connected to. Just because it's sextile to a certain planet, there's different aspects of it that might need to be looked at.
Mhm.
The shrapnel was not just placed in one area. Um, like it has energy in different corners of that particular planet. Um, Let me see. Yeah, that's, and then trine is basically another harmonious um, infraction as well. It's just more of a threefold cycle. So the mother and the father and like your child spectrum, like your subconscious spectrum of like what the Trinity represents. It's that maturity that you get from the two perspectives that actually, yeah, between two signs that are 60 degrees apart. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So now I got a little more clarity on that, y'all. We can push forward with the show. I
Yeah.
just been meaning to ask
It's
Gabby that for a
cool.
while.
Like
I can't even
some
read.
of the stuff I'm still learning too. Like I've deep dived into this for about almost 3 years now.
Mhm.
After having my son, that's when I started diving deeper into this hobby that I've made for myself. Like I
Mhm.
really did enjoy astrology. I saw really awesome facts about it as I was growing up, but I didn't really get to the nitty gritty of it. I didn't really see any value at the time because I was told that was evil.
Right. Ah, that makes
Because it
sense.
didn't have any like even though the wise men found Jesus, you know, using the stars.
I'm about to say, didn't they
Um,
track the skies to do that? Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So like that to me was just like God used it to help lead three people to some little boy that considered to be his son. Like
Right.
the essence of him was in that child. So,
Right.
like, and now it's in all of us.
Right.
So like, and it wasn't us like at the beginning when Abraham came into play. So like, at least in the sense of like the biblical aspect of things. So like in that aspect, it's just like, to me, that's like, you're literally losing so much knowledge because you're cutting out a piece of it that looked evil. And it wasn't made for evil. It was made for good.
Right.
So
That's true.
that's just my aspect of like my experience. Like I said,
No,
I grew up in a
very
very
true.
Christian household, Christian and Judaism. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of counterbalancing with my father's way of remembering how his like spectrum of things were more based on a Christian value, Christian and Catholic, and then you had my mother who was still trying to find herself throughout all of the like experiences. So I got to see a lot of different things. I'm grateful for those experiences because they gave me a perspective that I can share very like different perspectives without it being so crazy.
So both of your parents aren't Jew. They didn't practice the Jewish faith growing up.
My dad was Catholic Lutheran for a long time until he met my mom. And then my mom's family was they practiced Judaism for a period of time while she was a child. And as she went into middle school, they decided to go Catholic. And then they still had done a lot of the practices of what they were taught through Judaism. But it wasn't like a huge like burden pressed upon them. Like it was something for them to experience and enjoy versus like, this is how it is and it's never going to change. So my grandmother like decided that she didn't want to be a version of oppression that she felt from her family.
Yeah.
Through Judaism. And since her experience wasn't great, she chose a different path of spirituality, and Christianity worked better for her. So the Catholic Church worked better for her at one point. And then she went to non-denominational.
Interesting. And for
Yeah.
the people that don't know, they're all forms of Christianity. They just have different interpretation. Jewish people are Christian too. They just have a different interpretation of Jew. That's all.
Same thing with Muslims. They have a form of spirituality. Actually, pretty much most of Islam and Muslim is based out of a lot of teachings that is very similar. They're both very similar to Judaism. And it's because there's this union between you and God that is so sacred that it's not meant to be oppressive.
Yeah.
In a sense, like the aspect of it is very genuine because you're always learning and you're never stagnant. You're always in this process of like it's like a beloved standpoint.
Which holy just means wholesome, your whole self. That's literally
you're humbled. You're humbled and you're open to listen.
Yep. So I don't get why they killed each other over for 200 years, but whatever. That was some man.
There's a lot of things that made that. It's like it's a mask of what it really happened. We don't really know what happened there.
Right.
Like it's just an interpretation that these people are evil now.
Right.
Like fuck them and their religion. Like no, but we said that to a bunch of other religions.
Right.
Like that.
Right, exactly.
It just because it had to fit the bill of what our belief system needed to be at that particular point. There was no other choice.
Absolutely.
Which was so weird to me. I'm like, why don't you just continue being your true selves?
Right.
Like you don't have to. The label part was still a thing that didn't really need to be there, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
It's something weird like that. I don't know. I'm still learning that stuff too. It's really beautiful. It's a fascinating discovery.
Absolutely. That's why I love sports, because sports is trying, a lot of sports officials, like the guy in Saudi Arabia, is trying to basically make them not be so backwards, because they are backwards basically. But like it's just Vince McMahon is, for all the negative things, which is a lot of them, and a lot of his quirkiness that you can criticize him for, he does a lot of like global bringing together. And by the way, you looked up his thing that once his Chiron is in Libra, but Vince is very he'll try to like. I mean, of course, a lot of it at the end of the day is for WWE, but I mean, he still has this. I want to use my unique brand of entertainment to try to bring people together. That's at the root of what a lot of what he does because
Yeah.
he's going through the criticism of going to Saudi Arabia, even though they barely let women drive cars. Women have very, very little say so anything. The women from WWE to wrestle over there, they had to be covered up in like black, like I forget what they're called, but it was like they couldn't even be shown. They were covered up. All you saw was like their face or something like that, I think. But they
I
were
think it's called
wrestling
a
over there.
hijab. A hijab?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. So they had to be covered. So sports is there's the guy that's over their sports committee is trying to bridge the gap and bring a lot of popular American acts and global acts. That's why sports is very important with a lot of stuff. I really enjoy that they're able to do that through sports. But yeah, so a lot of this stuff is very interesting, man. That's why reading educate yourself is very, very. It stops stupid actions when you learn that people aren't that much different than you. I mean, everybody has a form of a sandwich. The Latinos call it a taco. You know what I mean? Like we all have some form of a damn sandwich. So which means people aren't that different from each other, obviously. So yeah, let's push forward with let's get back to the black moon here. And now we're on in the fiery side of the mutable, and that is what Ash is, and that's a Sagittarius. So Lilith in Sagittarius refuses to be satisfied. Here, the Sagittarian nature to explore and run wild turns into utter relentlessness. I've actually dated like two girls with this placement, and a knack for avoiding commitment. People are often let down by Lilith and Sagittarius, who often end up rearranging plans or flanking on them completely. Y'all Sagittarius folk need to get that together, by the way. So, Gabs, what say you?
Like that's something that like that it's a good thing and a bad thing because it is a defense mechanism. I love that you guys do that for yourselves because it literally shows the parts that you're pushing back into yourselves and seeing what needs to be like challenged and accepted. Like it seems like with this placement a lot of the times there's a lot of shame or them feeling ashamed for being curious, for asking questions that don't normally get questioned, seeing the need to like kind of question and challenge life, facts and beliefs. Just because somebody says something doesn't always mean it has to be there. I yeah, that's another thing too with the whole sensuality thing here with the Lilith being the way it is, the energy. I can see where that would make a lot of sense for you, Ash. But yeah, it's definitely like there's parts of you that's always needing to get away and expand when you feel that way for you to be able to seek the meaning behind it. And that can make you feel you may feel a little bit uncomfortable around people who are trying to be in a Sagittarius state of being. Like if they start showing traits of a Sagittarius that you don't know to be true, that can make you feel a little bit not very trusting to them. Like you feel like they're not really exactly who they say they are, and that can kind of send that kind of like, I need to run away from this. I need to hide away and get all the facts and expand my mind on this. So I have this understanding. And that's quite profound, especially when you're stressed. You can go to huge extremes with this particular energy. So it's all about working about self-acceptance. Again, it's okay, Eric. Welcome back. It does have to deal with a lot of self-acceptance for you guys personally, because if you do happen to have this imbalancement of being told or feeling this ashamed about being your natural curiosity self, the way that you're supposed to expand, as a growing and amazing maturing person, that can help empower you. It can show you that other side of yourself as a fire sign. Definitely one way for you to be your natural self is to just accept it.
Absolutely,
So.
I agree. Yeah, it's something that sometimes I don't know what Sagittarius are running from. I don't even think they know sometimes, but it's something that they need to be more self-aware of. They need to be more self-aware, and that everybody need a Sagittarius part of them from time to time, but it doesn't function on like a regular basis well. You can't always live in that constant state of, not having a schedule or not having a concrete plan for it. It just doesn't, it creates unnecessary chaos in a lot of situations that doesn't need to be there. I get the impulse to like disconnect and just go out and go for the wild and all that, but if they want to be perceived as trustworthy, they can't lead with situations like that. You know what I mean?
It's more just towards people who have those traits, like Sagittarian traits, that they sometimes feel a little bit out of it with those people. So if you have a Sagittarius placement that they don't feel comfortable with, you're going to see that flight response.
Gotcha.
Because they have to understand the full meaning behind it all. Like it has to have, the questions have to be answered, the curiosity has to be quenched. Like, why is this feeling making me feel restless? Like, I shouldn't be in this state of restlessness. I shouldn't have to question all of this. But it's that drive of expansion. That's the really cool thing about Sagittarius placements, is it really does imply with the 9th house a lot. Like, it gives that example of expansion. Oh, you're a tarot reader too. I remember reading that somewhere. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it says it in her bio. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think I remember reading that on your page.
Yeah.
Or your profile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I always felt like the Sagittarius were like the spiritual fire sign anyway, because not so much too much Leo and Aries. They don't tend to be very spiritual, but I think that's why they vibe good with Pisces too, or people with Pisces placement, because they have very similar spiritual. Because Pisces are expansive too. They're just more like emotionally available than a Sag, but they're very expansive, and they have that tendency to want to like swim away of certain situations that make them feel uncomfortable or question. I think that's why Sagittarius and Pisces get along very well. They're opposite but similar to each other. You know what I mean? They have an opposite mode of operation, but they have similar views on things. Because my best female and male friend right now, they're a Pisces Sagittarius couple as we speak. They very are in love with each other basically, but I love them both. But let's push forward here. Last but not least, the trickster of the group, Gemini. Lilith and Gemini can talk their way out of anything. Be careful of getting bored. Your charm draws people in, but Lilith and Gemini enjoys the chase so much more than the prize. In this placement, there needs to be an acceptance that's being inactive is not a bad thing. So basically, just prepare to be restless if you're going to be associated with them. That's what it sounds like. And constantly on the move. What say you, Gabby?
I totally can. From what I've read about them, that does hit a lot of buttons, like the ticks of all the boxes. They definitely can seem like they're talking too much or too little, or it has to be at their level of intelligence or social skills that makes them feel comfortable. So if they don't feel comfortable, they can feel almost shamed for not speaking too much or speaking too little, or to speaking too much, vice versa. Sorry, I totally jumped those up a little bit. But it's because they have all this, not always like cohesive information. Like, their intelligence is very vast, so it can seem like there's a lot of like meaningless information.
Mm-hmm.
Or their social skills can be a little too friendly or flirtatious, and it can sometimes feel like there's like a fine line, or they can be very withdrawn, socially, depending on how everything kind of moves. But it's usually they like to flaunt a lot of their stuff because they consider themselves so smart. Like, they have a lot to like push in there. Like, there's a lot going on in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now their curiosity can kind of be stifled because of the shame. Like, they might not want to push any further with you if they feel like there's like a roadblock. So that would shame them from diving any deeper or expanding their knowledge of you. Mm-hmm. Yes, baby. What is it?
I'm gonna open the door.
What do you need? Sorry, my daughter's asking a question.
That's cool.
What's up,
Yeah,
Aiden?
a visitor here. Another one of Gabby's Pisces fans.
Yes, it's my oldest. She's 6.
That's the engineer, right?
Yes, the engineer.
Yeah. Check you out. We're gonna have a house builder here in a second. Gabby has very smart kids for their age. They're very, very smart for their age. And I'm not saying this because you're on here. I've said it because I heard them. I've heard them several times, like speak and ask her questions, and they're years ahead. They probably live more lives than I have. So, yeah, she has very, very smart kids.
Yeah, we've been doing this like thing every other night. We make popcorn as like a little treat, and they're like, "We're still kind of hungry, and it's about this time. Would you make popcorn for us?" I'm
Now,
like, sure.
Now, do you let them stay up a little later on weekends?
I try to let them have like them gauge their own clock, their own internal clock when it comes to weekends. Just because they're fish.
Right. Yeah.
Like their sign needs to be able to flaunt off their awesomeness. And so sometimes like during the week they have to be a certain way, so they mask some of that stuff towards me and their father. And at that end of the week, it makes it really easy for them to just be them. Like I do make sure that they're them all the time, but there's usually a routine that doesn't really feel comfortable sometimes for them because we're doing school a lot more. Yeah. And so it's a lot more learning than sometimes they're comfortable with. And they're still young. So like most of their stuff, it's already like internally engaged. Like I usually go to bed at this time. So their body will be like, you can stay up another hour. And then they'll be like, okay, because I'm enjoying myself. But once they're tired, they let me know. They're like, I'm done. Let me go upstairs. I'm ready for my songs or my books, and we can go to bed now.
That's an interesting balance because Gabby's a Taurus, and they generally don't compromise their schedule. So it helps with that Libra moon that she's kind of, a little more flexible but not too ridiculous. She don't let it get too far out of whack type thing. You know what I mean? But that's a good like balance to have because some Tauruses, that's not going to happen. Like even as parents, if they say you're going to bed at 9, you're going to bed at 9. Simple. That's the end of the story. It's not much.
Like if it's detrimental to their health, I'm very firm on it.
Right.
Like, but if it's something that it's their way of expressing themselves, I try to let them be that person. Like if they need to express their creative side, we'll find an outlet for that. If they want to push towards something that they're passionate about, because Pisces, they're very creative and sassy, and they have a lot to share and give. And I've noticed that if I let that belief system that they can do anything stay in that mentality for them, it makes it a lot easier for them to try new things.
Yeah.
Because at least they try it once, and if they don't like it, then we know where to navigate next, what river we need to take next. The emotional path isn't stifling. They don't have to keep hitting a brick wall. It can flow fluently in our house. So
absolutely, that's great. And also the husband is a Pisces, so that's a whole set of
that's a whole other bag of chips.
Yeah, that's another thing you have to, because it's different from being a wife than a mom. That was two different things,
Yeah, as a partner with a Pisces person, it's definitely, there's days where we're clashing, but it's more towards the communication because he'll like push things up, and I won't know if I need to speak more or if I need to like
let it breathe,
like let it out.
Yeah.
Or close down shop and let him just be himself for a little bit.
Sure.
So like his outlet's usually video games, for him to feel creative and on top of the world, because that's where most of his childhood stuff stemmed from him controlling his video game system. Like everything else in his life he had no control over, but his video games he had control, or his shows that he watched, and so. Or books that like comics and mangas he used to read as a kid. So like that stuff is like to his heart, and you can tell that's what he's passionate about.
Sure.
And so that's stuff that I let him do his thing, and he lets me do my thing. Like I like to be busy. This makes me happy. Learning things makes me happy. And so we're very accommodating with that kind of stuff.
You're such a Taurus. They find interest in like activities that most people would consider mundane. Let's just put it like that. Not to me, because I also like to be busy, but they find comfort and excitement in things that a lot of people would consider mundane.
Yeah. I think it's also because of the housing placements of my signs that I'm residing in, not just because like, oh, I'm just a tourist.
Mhm.
Some of the stuff that is in my chart really makes me an expanding tourist. Like I don't
Mhm.
always stick to my guns in that one position like normal
Mhm.
tourists would. And thank God for some of the airports in my chart, or I would be totally screwed. But I do feel like that expansion house, so the ninth house or the 10th house usually has a form of expansion, either through travel or law or religion as a standpoint. It definitely gives me a little bit more freedom with the reality that I want to create. What's worth to me materializingly is books.
Mhm.
Gathering information from the perspectives that I have gives me a whole nother almost like a spiritual enlightenment.
Mhm.
Like I love the ability to see things from everybody's perspective, so I'm not stuck in that mentality that it's only one way or the highway. Because I've
Mhm.
been as a child and having when we get to vertexes, you'll see that. I think we might not have time for it tonight, but I definitely think that over time you see that vertexes are more about what your childhood had to deal with. And so
Mhm.
that's how you can relate through this from this perspective with this energy. That's why I liked the combination.
Sure.
Because it shows that the energy and then the like the spiritual awakening aspect of you as a child, what you actually
Yeah.
needed and craved.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. Hmm.
yeah.
Okay. And we're down. Speaking of Lilith, we're down to the last couple Liliths,
Oh,
and then we
cool.
might be able to touch on a little bit of Vertex, and then
Okay.
give it as another episode, and maybe combine it with another one or something just to balance it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm okay with us going on this direction because this allowed us to, communicate more with the chat and infuse things up that we missed the last few weeks, and it's going to
Yeah.
work out. I know it's going to work itself out. That's why I'm not too stressed that we didn't get too much
Absolutely.
into Vertex because the last episode, ironically, that we did for this was really really short. It was literally like 45 minutes. I think we did like what it was like one planet, and
I think it's Jupiter
yeah,
actually. Was our
I think
last
it was
one.
Jupiter. Yeah, yeah. And that's the one Michael called in on. That's the last show that we did. Michael had called
Mhm.
in, and that was you got to see a different side of Michael, and he was opened himself up, and he was very interesting. Not that he's generally is interesting, but a even more interesting side of Michael,
Like
like
he was
that I didn't
willing
even know was there.
to have things pulled out of him that normally he would have kept in a box.
Right, and he felt for whatever reason comfortable enough with me to you know what I mean to
Yeah.
call in and do that. And I think we had P on for a minute too. I think Sweet Pea was on for a few
Yeah,
minutes.
P came in for a little
Yeah.
bit, and I think we also had James for a minute too.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Yeah, yeah. I think you're
Yeah,
right. James is a interesting fellow. I'll love to see what he's got going on behind
he
that
has a
chrome.
plethora of information that just needs an awakening. Like it needs an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
Like he needs to be able to share the knowledge he has, or
Mm-hmm.
he will feel like he's trapped in a box. Like that
Absolutely.
needs to happen. Like that expansion process needs to happen.
Which is Mars is in Sagittarius, so that makes total
Mhm.
sense. So, and I'm sure, I mean, we don't know what his other houses, and he's probably, I would imagine he has a lot of probably fire and air elsewhere in his chart,
I
which is
think I
great for
have him
him.
on my app.
Do you?
I think so, because he gave us a lot of information.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it's a very fascinating
Mm-hmm.
thing because his personality is technically Gemini.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's so cool to see the duality and the adaptability he does have
Yeah. Because his sun
as
sign is
a
Cap, which
person.
is kind of a rigid zodiac sign. But yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good placement for him. Mm. That's very great, and I love to get him on here one day where he can speak for himself and he can have it. And I'll just sit here and just do all the production stuff, and I'll let him and Gabby mostly have that. He asks her something, and I love that dynamic because I think Gabby will be able to get James is another similar to Michael, where he don't open up until he know you like that. Because me and James are developing a really good. James is almost like a big brother. I mean, I talk to James
outside of house. I talk to him on the phone sometimes, but we're starting to develop kind of that little brother because I think he knows what I want, but he's the type of person to get it out of me type of thing. And James is he's a very interesting guy, but he's kind of cagey when he don't know you well or whatever, which makes sense because his moon is a Scorpio, so that makes total sense. But yeah, he's an interesting guy. I'm gonna get James. I'm gonna keep poking him until I get him on. I'm sure with James, he's just like he got a million things going on. He's a father. He's just got lots of. But
his Lilith is in Virgo.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow. So that makes the perfectionist things kind of make sense with him, the way he does things and how profound he is with a lot of things. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna have to get him on here one day. I'm gonna keep you hear that, James. I'm gonna keep tapping you on that Chrome dome until I get you on, brother. But last but not least, let's get to the last quartet of the cardinal signs, the initiators of the zodiac, so to speak. Lilith and Aries. I actually know a couple of people that had displacement too. I've dated one or two people with this. I don't know what's up with me and fire signs. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But Lilith and Aries is completely dominated by impulse. She is fiercely competitive and independent. Lilith and Aries wants it now or not at all. Her bold audacity can sometimes become dangerous. As a karmic duty, those born with the astrological placement must learn to control their extreme passions. Passing to you, Gabs.
Yeah, that's definitely a winner there with all those information right there. They're definitely very self-centered. When it comes to them asserting themselves, sometimes they can execute that version of me, I need it now. And that can make them look very immature.
Yeah.
But they're very weary of other people that express Aries traits as well, because it makes them feel shocked on how unapologetic that other person is with those traits, because they weren't expecting it to come back at them. Which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
So like if you happen to have an Aries in some form in your chart, if that other person has that same, it can sometimes feel like you guys are doing like a battle for territory.
Yeah.
And that's just because the fear of somebody else taking the lead of their reality scares the bejesus out of them. Mm-hmm. And then they have to assert themselves, and they're not really sure if that's what they should do, especially when they're feeling that small or feeling selfish, like somebody told them they're being selfish, or that what they're doing is wrong for them to want that for themselves. And so just making those executive decisions, or even the desire to do so, can show like very extreme like varieties of behavior with that particular Lilith aspect. So it's just about learning to accept the parts of yourself that you know you can't change at the moment, Aries, which can be a little bit hard because we want things fast and we want it now.
Yep.
And so that stuff can kind of sometimes shorten our growth energetically with this particular placing. So just to be mindful that you accept the stuff you can't change for yourselves. That's a key point that they're like pushing towards with this particular placement, for you to have some form of like ending of a cycle or healing process to complete what parts need a little bit of an upgrade. But it does symbolize the first house, which happens to be led by Aries anyway. So you're kind of perfectly aligned with your Lilith if you do happen to have it in the first house. So it's easier for you to see those little mishaps or things that you think make you wrong, or you've been told you've been wrong, or those selfish parts of you that are needing a little bit of TLC. So
yeah, that's true. And my dad, I just had to, as you were talking, I looked up my dad's birth chart, and I checked with his Lilith in, and it pretty much explains this guy. My dad is so weird. He's an Aries. He has a bunch of planets in Aries. Like his first 4 planets are in Aries. The first 4 alone. Then I go down to his true self. His true self is a Pisces. His south node is in Pisces, which is your true self. His Lilith is in goddamn Leo. So this explains why my dad is such a pain in the ass. I swear, this guy, I'm telling you, I wouldn't trade him because I love him and he's one of the hardest working people ever I've ever met. But I swear to God, I just want to like give him up for a while for 10 years and get him back and ask people, how was your 10 years with this guy? Imagine being with him for 30 years, let alone the 10 years with this guy. My dad is, oh my God, damn, my mom's a Gemini. That's a whole nother story. And I think her true self is a Libra, so she's a pain in the ass too. And her moon's in Leo. So yeah, I looked
I
up my
think they
dad.
complement each other. I just don't think they complemented each other at the time of them
Right.
thinking about making a union, like an actual stronger verbal, like representation of what that would have been like contract wise for them.
They're still cool to this day, by the way. But it's just like
Yeah.
my relationship with them, they're a pain in the ass. They get along with each other though. You know what I mean? I'm
I
probably
think
a pain
they
in the
just
ass.
needed their own space.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
it felt like they didn't have enough space for them to be themselves or
Yep.
to get the wants and needs that they needed for themselves.
Mhm.
So it was like, okay, we can mutually agree this isn't working.
Yep, I agree, and that's basically that's all but what they did. That's exactly what they did. So it's just who knows? I'm probably a pain in the ass on their perspective to them. Maybe I, but it's just from my perspective, I think I'm pretty reasonable for the most part. But hey, I'm not too arrogant enough to think that to some people I'm probably a pain in the ass, and that's fine. You know what I mean? That's probably what we need to decide, that we need to just love each other from a distance. That's the situation that you basically get in at that point. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
acquired taste too, so it's just yeah, it's just oh my God. And by the way, my true self is also a Cancer. My self node is a Cancer, so I have a lot of water in my chart, a lot of fire. I'm kind of in a little bit of air, just a drop of the drip, just a couple drips of air. But yeah, I'm kind of a case myself. But let's push forward because I don't want to keep Gabby no longer than
Oh, you're okay.
we need to. We probably we'll see maybe
They're
another
calmed down now, so
because I need to eat. Sorry.
yeah, you need to eat. That's true. True
Yeah,
statement.
I actually fast today. I'm happy. I fasted for about 12 or almost 12 hours, but which is not hard for me because my body. I've been transitioning to my body for about 8 years since 2012. I haven't had any pork, not much dairy products. I don't eat almost dairy, never, but no refined sugar, no white, no bleach, none of that since 2012. So my body's transitioned and it heals itself faster too. Because back then I used to heal so slow when I used to work out, but now a day or two I'm good. But yeah. So speaking of which, Cancer. So Lilith in Cancer. That's the next sign because we did Aries. So we're moving to the second cardinal sign, and that's Cancer. It says Lilith, and do I got the right one? Hold on. Because why is Cancer looking so different than all these other ones that I had? 1 second, Joe.
Oh, you're okay. It might be giving you more of the sensual aspect of.
That's what it seems. Okay, so I'll read a couple, and Gabby, you tell me which one's the closest to it, because they got a couple.
Okay, gotcha.
It says, okay, this one looks pretty concise. Lilith in Cancer is a submissive siren in the bedroom. She is highly intuitive, but can use that power for evil sometimes. Becoming emotionally manipulative, those with their Lilith in Cancer can suffer from intense separation anxiety. It is their karmic duty to find their independence. At her best, Lilith in Cancer is fiercely protective of her loved ones.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate with the sexuality part or sensuality part. Like if they have been felt ashamed for being needy or dependent on a person for whatever reason, or a relation, like anything that involves you actually putting some form of a relationship type of aspect, it can make you feel very awkward, sometimes even angry, with people who try to show those types of traits back at you. And you can kind of be a little bit unapologetic to those people who think that they can be needy or dependent. And that's just because that nurturing state, that natural state of being the family person and taking care of your family and providing them that protection, it's stifled, almost like stagnant in some way, and that can make you feel very uncomfortable of asking people for help because that there's like this layer of pride that you hold yourself to a higher esteem like you're in the tarot, you're technically like a king of water for that sign. So like there's just like this level of you that feels like you have everything protected and under control. And for somebody to maybe like bring up you might need help or expressing that own nurtural side that you may be needing for yourself, and that can trigger that stuff and result. Like there can be a lot of discomfort that triggers extreme behaviors in that area, which then can give you kind of this misleading analogy or experience that might happen with those people in your life. And then the cycle can continue. The pattern continues with all the people that you've chosen to make this like front of, I got all this under control. My life is not a mess. Whatever you're saying is not true. That kind of vibe can be misconstrued and misgiving. So it's the same thing, working on yourself, acceptance, and kind of just that's the key to empowerment for yourself, because the parts that you felt ashamed about, for like if you really do need something, like if you need somebody to help give that version of what you're desiring, or you need somebody to feel like you're being cared for when you can't care for yourself, that kind of can help self-acceptance.
That sounds about right. And this goes to the next. Well, mine is the last one, last but not least. Mine is actually in Capricorn. That's the last one we're going to do. But and I just read it, and it sounds pretty similar to me, and it's something I'm trying to work on.
Yeah.
But the next one is the Justice sign, Libra. So
This
Black
is mine.
Moon or Lilith in Libra. That's yours? Yeah.
Yep. I'm a
Sweet.
Lilith in Libra.
How apropos, Gabs. The last one is me and you. Isn't that crazy? We didn't even plan
Yeah,
it that
how
way.
synchronistic is that?
Because I didn't know what yours was. Just you just told me. That's really interesting. That the last two is ours. Wow. And of course, ladies first. And so in this article, okay, no, not that part. So Black Moon and Lilith and Libra suggests that you are fascinated by relationships, but for some reason, you are often unsuccessful in this area. Things start out well, but they come to an end before the time. In other cases, you fall in love with people who are for some reason unavailable. Let me see. It was another interesting thing I wanted to mention here.
It's mostly my childhood.
Capricorn is going to be mine because I read it. Okay, there's a tendency to see your shadow side mirrored by others. You don't trust easily, and it's hard to maintain harmony in the long run with this placement. You pay a lot of attention to what others want from you, even define yourself as the function of your relationship. Lilith, raw, wild, and independent, rebellious. Okay, we don't need to read that part, so we know that. So, does that sound pretty? The first part that I read sounds pretty close.
Yeah, that's pretty straight on. Most of my relationships starting at 17, technically 13. If we want to get like totally my rebellious side did kick in. I was like, okay, and then something bad happened, and I was like, okay, that's never gonna happen to me again. I'm gonna lock myself off forever. I don't need companionship. I don't need approval from anybody else. Fuck these people. I'm going to be the epic version of Independent Woman by Kelly Clarkson. Like my anthem for like the whole entire time of my life.
Yep.
And that was pretty much my adolescence all the way up till about age 20.
Wow.
So that's how my relationships all kind of stuck. I always felt ashamed for or wronged for wanting companionship or needing companionship, because I felt like that would give me the hole that I was needing at the time. Mm-hmm. And I always would seek approval, or felt like I needed to seek approval from others, especially my parents, like my dad and my mom. That was like a huge deal. Like if they didn't approve certain things, it made me feel like that was like the greatest sin I could possibly do was hurt them by doing that. So, and that came with a lot of the relationships I dealt with, from bosses. Like if I wasn't able to honor my commitment, hugely, like I would be in a disarray. Like my emotions would be all over the place. So this is very accurate. self-acceptance was really hard growing up too, because
Mhm.
if you've been told a certain way as a Libra, you're honestly going to try to deny yourself any of those items in your life. So when you've been allowed to do that, like get the dependency or the compromising, sometimes people can see that as you being weak, or you can find yourself feeling like that's a weakness, and it's not right for you to have to put yourself down because of that other person's opinions, and their approval is all you're really seeking when you're unbalanced. So because whatever they said was wrong, you need to fix it, and that's the people pleasing part for this particular energy. Now, after a while, that absence of self-accepting can kind of show extreme holes that really do need to be fixed. Like a lot of behavioral things can lead to escapisms. So like you could be an extreme sex addict, or you could be the life of the party, and you could be like you could be the whore that everybody's worst nightmare. It's a terrible placement when you're an unbalanced person. But working on that self-acceptance is really the part that helps end those cycles in your life, because all you were doing was looking for validation. Like at the end of the day, this particular lineup is all about just validation for yourself, but you expected the companionships and the approval of the people that you've allowed in your relationships to be that. And so that's like the hardest part, going from being your child self, because you're shown a perception of what that should look like, and it's not what you're getting. Then you become an adult, and it's like, okay, like that isn't exactly how this looks like after experiencing that shit. And then when you've gotten to adulthood, it's like, or the Crohn's part of it all, after that cycle is pretty much at its end point, it's like, wow, all I had to do was this. Shocker.
Yeah.
Like, and it works out. At the end of it, it's the best experience of your life. Like you're finally at this balance, and it's still a work in progress for those who still had to deal with this stuff. And if you have this placement, I applaud you. Well done. It is hard. It is a super hard placement, but they can never say that you didn't try. Right. If you're in a relationship as a Libra with this placement as the energy that you're pushing off, like you are literally the perfect person, the perfect partner, because you literally do try.
Right.
Every single angle before it's like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm going to take care of myself now.
Right.
I'm going to accept those parts that I can't fix with you. Like, I'm done. I will accept myself now. Thanks. So that's another cool thing about like the ending of that cycle for yourselves. So
absolutely. And I think that's universal for any type of Libra. I can never say, it's very few Libras I've met that at least didn't try. If they did something wrong, or if they wanted to preserve a relationship and they want to keep it going, it's very few. I could probably count maybe one. Libras generally are very great at this type of stuff. Like it's not much ego involved with them when it comes to like trying to like admit when they're wrong or something. It's nothing for them to admit that they're wrong. What's that?
Very neutral territory. Like the ground is very neutral. We're Switzerland until the dynamics feel like we have to defend or be the politician in that situation to kind of calm everything down, the negotiator, if you will.
Yeah. So that they rule law and justice. That's kind of their forte with a lot of things. But if you're one of those type of people that want to rush them into things, that's where they run into trouble at. When you need a decision like now, like when it's a situation where you got to act on impulse, like an Aries. You probably want to call an Aries or a Sagittarius or something like that. But Eric says he has a Libra rising. Interesting. That's an interesting placement for a Pisces too. Very interesting placement there. How's the relationships too makes sense. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the Liliths, they really do complement the house that they're in. Yeah. Like, so like even if you're a Lilith in Capricorn, the 10th house part, the aspects of the 10th house for that, it really does accommodate the sign that you're in. It's just, it's not like the the instant, like the root of it for if you have a different house placement. So
Okay.
that's the cool thing about this. They really do show kind of the same thing as what the house's rulers are for each Lilith. The energy is still there for that, which I love. I love that they still give that aspect there. So it's really cool.
I love that we actually talked about that in our researches because I'm not gonna lie. Prior to meeting Gabby, stuff under Jupiter, well, minus Saturn. After Saturn, I consider pretty much everything else under that chart kind of insignificant. Until Gabby was able to explain to me the intricacies and the details of why it's important. I didn't consider much as far as my personality under Saturn. Oh, this crap can't matter, Uranus and people, because we don't talk about it much in contemporary society. We don't talk about much about Uranus. Like, people barely know that planet exists. They was all but saying Pluto disappeared or some shit. So like, we don't really talk about those planets. I didn't know what Lilith was until I talked to Gabby. I didn't know because I didn't grow up very religious or into like mythology. I didn't know what any of that was, Like, who the hell is Lilith? I don't know what that is. So I'm glad I actually gave this stuff a second thought, and it's really
open heart, open mind.
Absolutely. Last but not least, my placement, all right, and I swear y'all, I did not plan it like this. What I try to do with these is I try to make it where we're not covering the same planets the same way, so y'all don't get bored. You know what I mean? Like, if it's a Pisces getting on here, for example, and we always cover them last, that's probably going to bug them that we always do Pisces last. So I try to shift it around and try to mix it up so it doesn't get so mundane and boring. So yeah, I did not plan. I swear I didn't plan for Cap because I almost forgot until like 10 minutes ago that my Lilith was in Capricorn. So Ash and Eric are Cap 2. Thank you. Yeah, Gab just said they were Caps 2. I don't know why I put your thing in private, Gabs.
No, I did that.
Ah, got you.
So that it didn't interrupt the feed. You click on the lock button, and it turns it to so just us get to talk.
Oh, right, duh, yeah. I
so
did
like it doesn't interfere like with if you're talking and you just see the pink part. It's just like, oh, here's a little tidbit just in case you forgot or weren't aware or
Thank you.
like it's a really good thing when your mic's not working properly. Sometimes when you're like in a deep conversation, you're just like, oh shit, like, hey, your volume's acting up, or like somebody needs to talk to you, like a question popped in the comments and it's like rushing by very quickly and you're trying to be a good hostess or co-host and you're like, oh, here, this came through. And that's what Tony tries to do in a lot of the
he does. He's
a good moderator.
Absolutely, he definitely is. I try to keep somebody that's around that's really good at that. When I'm on, when it's just me, I usually have Brian do that. But because he's so scatterbrained anyway, I might as well give it to him because he does it anyway. I was like, Brian, how about I just give you this to do? You already do it anyway. Because me and JoJo are very we're similar together. We're kind of structured. We're very, very we don't like to veer off too much unnecessarily. We'll do it, but not unnecessarily where it just becomes like we're not even talking about what we mentioned in the title number. I just don't want it to get like that. But I don't mind if it veer occasionally. It's fine. But But yeah, there's so okay. I don't feel as bad. So Ash and Eric also have Lilith and Caps. Okay, and I think this is something common between if you're born between 88 and like 92. You're likely going to have a Lilith somewhere. I saw Libra a lot too between those birth years. Actually, I saw Libra quite a bit. So Gab makes it because you're born in what 92, Gab?
93.
93. Okay, you're born in 82, Ash. Oh shit, I thought you're like my age. I didn't know you're born in 82. That's cool though. So 82, your Saturn is probably in, and correct me if I'm wrong. 74. It's nowhere you were born in 74, Eric. You're not in your 20s. 74? I must be mixing you up with somebody else. Because I don't remember you being born in 74. Oh, I might be mixing you up with James. I think James was born in the 70s too.
Oh, and my husband's in Capricorn. This is going to be interesting.
Wow.
Okay.
And he's like my age, right? Isn't he like 30?
He's 31.
So he's born 89. Okay.
Or 90, sorry. He's born 90. I think he's 30
okay,
then.
So he's a year older than me. Okay, because I was born in 91. But wow, that's crazy. 82, 874. So Ash, your Saturn is in either because this was mostly that year. Your Saturn is either in, because I remember Saturn's really good. It's either in Libra or Virgo if you was born in 82. And Eric, yours is in Cancer or Leo, I believe. Cancer, Leo, or Gemini. It's one of those three.
If you're born in 74, your Saturn is either Cancer, Libra. Sorry, not Libra. Cancer, Leo, or Gemini. It's one or the other. Yours is Scorpio. Wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting that. Scorpio dominated 83, 84, and 85, I believe, for Saturn, if I'm not mistaken.
Mostly probably it's the transition part. Like the degrees made it just to that point where she was able to become
right. That makes sense because she's born. You're right. That makes because she's born towards the end of the 82 because she's a
okay.
Sag.
So that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Gemini. Okay, yours is Gemini. I knew it was okay. I was right with Eric. Okay, I said it was either Gemini, Leo, or Cancer. Okay, I was right. Okay, I thought so because I read a lot of, and I remember Saturn doesn't move a whole lot, so that's how it doesn't move. It's a slow-moving planet. It doesn't move very often, or whatever. So, last but not least, Lilith and Capricorn. The great way to kind of round this topic off before we briefly mention a vertex, and then we got to do a whole episode in the future on that. But I don't want to let people down because I did put it in the thing. So maybe we could just kind of like gloss over it really quickly.
Yeah, I'll brush through the meaning definition, and then maybe pick each of our vertexes,
sure,
and then go from there or something like that.
That'll work. So with Cap, Black Moon and Cap or Lilith suggests that you desire perfection and completeness, but you struggle with reaching it. For some reason, it may seem like unexpected hurdles are along your path. That already describes my life right there. But I'm going to continue to read it. But it says if you have your natal in Cap or your natal Lilith in Cap, you likely have issues with structure, hierarchy, and authorities. People with this placement rebelled against others, or against order, I should say, and it takes a lot of work for them to create a structure that serves them. Simply put, growing up is one of their most important life lessons. Lilith is likely not the most important feature of the horoscope, but in some cases it can highlight parts of it, especially if it's in a prominent position. For example, conjunct one of the angles. So this sounds pretty right. It's a very challenging placement, very similar to what Gab said, and a lot of it has to do probably it's a cardinal sign, which doesn't like to be controlled anyway, because it's always jumping from it. They're known for starting and initiating and being in leadership roles. So it's already, from that perspective, it's going to be challenging to be used to other people controlling you. Another thing is Capricorns are really good at what they do usually, and they usually are bosses at jobs. So it's hard for them to take orders from people, especially if it makes no logical sense. You're not going to generally get Capricorns to do stupid things because they're very traditional by nature, old school. And that really describes me. But I thought this was more because I had Aquarius in my chart. That's why I thought the rebellious side came from. But maybe now that we're reading about this, my Black Lilith probably has a lot to do with that. Because I wouldn't have never thought what I just read applies to Capricorns at all. Because Capricorns generally don't break rules like that. Unless that's not something associated with Capricorns, is it, Gabs?
It's all about the respect level, like Ash says here. Like you guys have to have a mutual like ground of like a foundation of respect.
Mm-hmm.
If that respect has been broken, like the leadership line has been drawn, like if somebody tries to wiggle their way, so sort of similar to an Aries, it's kind of like, oh shit, like I'm going to look at a different perspective so that I don't look like I'm being a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm right, and I'm going to be right because I have that higher perspective.
Okay, now that makes sense. I don't feel as bad now because every time I disrespected somebody at work is because they did something that they shouldn't have did, and I gave them the benefit of the doubt. But when I do something that even slightly like, oh, if I'm slightly tardy, they make it seem like it's the end of the world. That's what sets me off. Like when you
it's because you're practically minded. Like you're a business minded and you're practical minded when it comes to this energy. Like it has to, if you're able to excel and succeed in life the way that you've envisioned it, because you have very high goals for yourselves. Normally, that's what a Capricorn, it strives to overachieve what others have said that I cannot do. Low tolerance of BS and common sense about everything. Yep, pretty much. That is a very, very, very totally correct standpoint, Ash. That's great. Yeah, it's definitely like the thing is when people put you guys down like this, like if they start to make you feel ashamed or wronged for excelling or trying to succeed in something that you've been reaching for a long time, either it can be a very huge goal that you're trying to see, like it's a worldly goal, so something materialistic that you're trying to like reach out for and touch, like it can be a position at work, or an amount of money you're trying to save and somebody's trying to make you go out and spend that money and you're like, no, like that's what that's for. It can be really hard for you to connect with other people that have the same esteem because you've been felt you had to put a blockage up because they've told you it's wrong for you to desire to be better than yourself. And so that's like the only downside to somebody who's still dealing with that healing process is because it takes a lot of work for you guys to like actually get up that mountain and see a different perspective.
Right.
Especially when that has been literally the center point of damage for your guys' healing process.
That was cathartic just hearing you talk about that because that was my 20s in a nutshell, what you just said. Basically.
Yeah. It's very uncomfortable for you guys with those kind of things because you can feel like you have to go to extreme lengths to prove that blockage isn't going to define you. Right. And then it makes you feel badly afterwards because you've like had to reevaluate all the things that you believed in for that barrier to be broken down.
Right.
So for you guys to feel back to being your higher selves or empowered, it is about moderation for you guys. Taking a step back and seeing where all these things add up. Does that person's like reasoning why they're pushing you towards that thing, is that really what the issue is? Or is it something that I've over-accessed in and I need to like get a different perspective so I can actually pursue my goal the way I want to, not what this other person has pushed me towards. And then self-acceptance. For the things you cannot change right now, just be thankful that they've been brought up and then move forward. Like let them go. Don't let it be the end all be all of your existence. Just because somebody says something doesn't mean it has to materialize and be the constant reminder of why you hate your life. Like that's something that shouldn't be put in a Capricorn's position because it will literally feel like a growth or a cancer on their system. Does not help the situation for the system to run smoothly. So
interesting, man. That was pretty cathartic. You know what I mean? Because
sorry
I said,
about that.
No, you're no, in a good way though. It was cathartic in a good way because that described, and I have a much better perspective on my 20s now. When I was in my 20s, a lot of what you just said was happening. I've always been somewhat rebellious, but I've always felt like my rebellion just had a reason. But explaining that to other people that don't see things from your perspective is very hard. And is also a challenge of the fact that I feel like I don't have to defend myself because what I'm explaining to you is logical. I don't get how you don't get it. So it's almost like that. I really don't understand how you don't understand what I'm saying. Like I'm trying to explain it in the most logical way possible. And to me, it's almost like you got to be shitting me. And that's when I just dismissed it. Like, okay, whatever. I don't have time for this bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way. And I don't like when people make it seem like I'm crazy when I know I did my proper due diligence and took a step back and looked at it from a lot of different angles. This is an issue I honestly think that, and it's probably why I don't get along well with Geminis, because they're very good at they do that all the time, where they'll try to gaslight you or make you seem crazy or something like that. Like, and I think that's why I generally don't get along with a lot of Geminis. That's the only sign that really drives just the pain in my ass. Them and sometimes Scorpios, but this makes perfect sense now. I admit this, and I'm gonna read this more. But the only thing I need to find out, me and Gabs need to come up with a day to do this. I need to find out what my Chiron is, because I think that's another area that's been very troubling to me.
Yeah, if that's the time frame that you think that you remember being told, I can look at it from that perspective and we can see if that resonates with you.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
And I think I have.
You should have my thing somewhere. Yeah.
I think I put you in here. Let me check.
Ash, as far as Taurus, with you being a Sag, that makes sense. I can give it to you quick.
Yeah, we can do it. Probably after like.
We do Vertex.
Yeah, let's do that, and then I can kind of give you a small perspective before we close.
Sure.
It doesn't take that long. That one won't take that long at all.
Sure. So, what's the thing with Vertex here, Gabs?
Okay, so this is the kind of reasons why I was so grateful that like I found this kind of pair duo, is because it really does show two pivotal points of literally like the transition of how we were, and then little bits about ourselves that help us show what's really important with our loved ones and our relationships in our lives. So Vertex is pretty much this incredible, beautiful, like secondary ascendant almost in your chart. So it's not considered anything like in the sense of like it doesn't have a planet or an asteroid or like a celestial body like a star. It's just an abstract point of your astrology chart that intersects with there's like two vertical points. There's a prime point, and then there's one called I think it's called an ecliptic point in your natal chart. And it kind of shows you this incredible importance for you for relationships, which is really awesome because that's what we're kind of talking about. It's like how this kind of works for the faith that you have in a person. And so it can kind of show you how you feel about the person that you meet, and getting to know them, and how it starts to become very important. That relationship or those people become very important in your lives. So relationships really do thrive on understanding your vertex. At least it's from my perspective and from the research that I have looked at for myself. If you don't agree with that and there's something about it that just feels like you might need to do a little research for yourself, that's what this stuff is here for. You don't have to take our word for it. Research is always important for yourself so that you feel confident in what you're getting. Because it's worth something to you when you're the one looking for it. Oh, hi, Janelle. It's so good to see you.
Yes, indeed, it is. Janelle, welcome back from Facebook. Yeah. Shout out to the people and everybody that's here. Yes, indeed. Thank you for being here.
That's what vertexes are. They're super cool. And I'm going to show you what my husband's is a Libra. So I'm going to show you that aspect, and then I'm going to show you mine so you can kind of see the relationship because we're married. We've been married for almost 8 years now. So you can kind of see where this kind of like balances out what the importance is between our relationship, which will be really cool for you guys to see. So my vertex is in Cancer.
Interesting.
So he's a Libra and I'm a Cancer in this department. So I'm going to show you guys what from that perspective. We'll start from the masculine perspective for him, just so you guys can kind of see what I'm up against as...
Is that a sexist remark, Gab?
No, like it's one of those things where you're just like, oh, as a woman or as a feminine archetype, I have two feminine archetypes fighting against each other, and this is the masculine aspect of what I'm having to communicate in my relationship with this person.
Absolutely.
So his vertex being in Libra, he's always expecting to bring this opposing like factions that kind of like help bring us all together, counseling and elaborating on the fairness and equalness of what we see in our relationship. So that's very important to him, that everything is fair and everything is on equal footing. We both have that understanding, or like for us to have some compromise that seeks some validation of satisfactory, which is very Libran. But this is probably even how he had been as a kid as well. So when he was dealing with his mother or family members that he felt very connected to, this was a way that he felt that he was showing some form of respect and importance to them in his relationship with them. So he has a very cooperative spirit, according to this, with this kind of placement. He likes to be able to help himself, but also help others move forward, which is why we work so well together. He's willing to wait a little bit if I need some time to think things over, which is nice. So there's like a consciousness that like kind of has this like almost complexness that is more of an inner conflict with himself when he's going over things. So there's like almost like he's sacrificing a little piece of himself when it comes to making sure everything is to his satisfaction. Yeah, so there's always going to be a part of him that is cultivating some form of inner balance, so he's able to avoid the unreasonable demands of social life. So if he doesn't want to be a part of something and he doesn't feel comfortable and that doesn't feel like it's important to him, I don't force him to do things. On my end, that's how I can see where this really works out for us, because he knows I'm not going to force him. That's a respect that he knows from that angle, that I'm not going to do that towards him, which makes him feel very comfortable in his importance and his role as a Vertex in Libra. So there's still a level for him to be himself. Like there's a detachment that makes him feel comfortable with the types of tools and tricks that he's learned to cultivate this art of like compromising, but also being himself. So it's not hurting him growing wise. He can still neutrally be his true self.
Absolutely.
At all times. So that's my husband.
And you did mine too. So all you gotta do is yours, because I'm a Cancer, so you did mine already.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
There is like a side note with this one though for Libras. I do notice that when things don't feel very you're not in a controlled state of being for this standpoint, like you haven't been able to balance that out. You sometimes need to learn what that would look like for your own personal life and the environment that you've chosen to be a part of. So it's just learning to accept the need for time for yourself, or the need for you to be a part of your family, or like just making a very healthy, conscious decision on that balance. Now, if you're not in a healthy one, you can sometimes feel like you're being a little bit biased in your judgment towards things, which is very true. Because it can lead you to feel like you're having to be more demanding and self-centering for you to make a deeper relationship connection. If things are starting to feel very out of like balance. There's a lot of indecisiveness that can be brought into this relationship. And it can cause a lot of disarray because you're trying to rebalance something that most likely just needed a better communication. So that's something to look into if you do happen to have a Vertex with Libra. Now going to Vertex and Cancer, unless there's no any questions. If you guys have any questions with this one, including
I'm pretty good. You already covered mine. Mine's in Cancer. Because yours is, I'm in Cancer. Yours is, you are a Cancer. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll be hitting that one right now. So
yeah.
So Vertex and Cancer. So this is a water sign, guys. So there's going to be like a little bit more of an emotional factor to this one. So we are expected to deal with public interests that we have made for ourselves, the choices we've made to make those a viable importance. We handle those emotional situations with the best of our ability, either dealing with more of the feminine people in our life or females in general. We're able to kind of learn to deal with them with a little bit more of understanding there's emotional factors to those situations. Sometimes there's even public figures or people that we like our let's say our bosses, for example. If our bosses were having an emotional day, we could feel it. We could see it. We would just be like, okay, I can take care of this situation that you can't handle. Like that blockage doesn't have to be there for that person. We can just get it done and over with. People can anticipate our abilities to spot on trends and accept the background or the parental role that we happen to put ourselves into. So sometimes you could be like the DD of your group, or the kind of like the unexpected big brother role or big sister role, or even your a parental figure. So if there's like a younger person in your life that sees you as a mother or a father figure, like in communities that don't really have that. It can be really kind of like it fills those needs of nurturing, because it's showing that you have the ability to still like regulate that emotional side of yourself, that nature of yourself that still needs that acknowledgement, which is very true. I feel like that as being the oldest sister, there was parts of it in my life, in my own family, that I felt like I was not being able to do the things that I needed to do in order to feel that need of nurturing and being a person. I think that's why my biggest goal in life was to be a mom, because I wasn't being able to validate that parental role in my life during that time of my life, which is quite fascinating. So, and then doing those things can help you, like I said earlier with the thing I just said a minute ago, like nurturing those qualities can help you also find those dependencies you need for yourself, which makes it more legitimately the concerns of your life at that time, which is good. And then also, sometimes when you haven't been able to accomplish those things, it may put you at the mercy of other people's emotions, which means you can keep everything in. And sometimes there's like a distortion or conflicts that arise to those people that you feel that emotion like backlash from, which can kind of give you a temperament where you're like a pressure cooker. So like you hold everything in and then you explode.
Right.
Because you can't hold it in anymore. Like whoever's emotions are coming at you in this relationship and they're not wanted or needed, and you've been tolerating it for so long, instantly they're going to get the back end of the stick because it's emotionally triggering. That like blockage or hold can't be held there any longer. That tolerance is over. Sure. Like it's starting to affect you in ways that you don't feel comfortable. Which my husband does get the backlash of that every once in a while. But it's not his fault. It's my fault for not choosing the better end of the compromising for him.
Right.
So like it sometimes will feel like gaslighting to me, but it's not really the case. It's just the form of like how I took or perceived the emotions that were given back to me. I wasn't interpreting it properly. Same thing with my kids sometimes. Like I'm like, did I do something? Do I need to like clarify what we did? Like, so I'm not affecting you in a wrong, negative way. Like my daughter will tell me straight up, she'll be like, you should have been nicer, or you should need to be nicer to daddy. I can tell that you and daddy are like having like a little bit of friction there. I'll be like, okay, like, what do you mean? Like, you and daddy are just fine as far as I know. And she'll be like, no, like you guys are usually a lot happier. Like what's going on? Like, and she's really nosy about it. Like she just wants to know everybody's okay, because that stability part is like, oh, like,
right, yeah,
not kosher. I love cuddling on you, but you don't feel comfortable anymore. Like what's going on? Like, so that's quite fascinating.
Don't cancel Gabby for saying kosher. She's Jewish. She can get away with it.
And kosher is just a form of cleanliness. So you can think of it from that perspective. If you're not Jewish, it's cool. But yeah, so it's not healthy. It doesn't have a healthy value in your life. Okay, that's what kosher is all about. So your vertex is in Taurus. Oh, that's a good one.
She's just saying it because she's a Taurus sun sign.
No, it actually really, it's honestly, I think out of all the vertexes, it's like you already are so sufficient in supporting yourself, because you've had to make the things you want done. You're self-supporting, you're self-sustaining, you've been able to deal with all the security issues in your life and with people around you. Like you are literally the problem solver of reality in your world.
That definitely sounds like Eric.
Like it's super amazing, like how complete you guys feel. Like everything you expect to complete has already been set in motion. Like you are like 10 steps ahead of everybody else. And that's what everybody sees. They expect that of you. So they would want you to deal with like anything materialistic at that level in your life because they know you're going to get it done and it's going to look fucking amazing. Lack of better terminology. So then accomplishing all those things will create the solution for whatever parts of you that are severely emotional or materialistically lacking. So you being able to accomplish anything on your task list is like awesome. And I'll reread the definition for you, Anthony. Don't worry, you got you covered, bro. But sometimes you can grow out of dependency of others and just start managing your own affairs. So you kind of have like this Capricorn mentality of like, once it's done, I can go to a different level of perspective and find something else that works better for my thing. I don't need another person to help. So it's like a mixture between a Capricorn and a Capricorn and a little bit of an Aquarius. You kind of have that ability to be your own individual self. You don't really need anybody, but you like having people when you need it. And it makes you look like you're a really good leader. And so when you don't have all this shit together, you are sometimes like obtaining some self-esteem issues that sometimes could be gained from you just relying more on your self-sufficiency. So sometimes you can feel socially and emotionally indebted. Okay, no, Vertex is not latex, I promise. No.
What?
No. I promise that is not the case. You are very welcome, hon. No problem. But yeah, that is actually probably the best placement for a Vertex because literally you are self-sufficient at every level of the degree in the materialistic items of your life. Like, in the sense of relationships with people, they expect you to already have that shit on point. If you need a little bit of tuning up, it's usually just because you've lost your self-esteem or you've lost your self-sufficiency or sustainability. So you've lost your ability to take care of yourself. So like if you got hurt and somebody else had come and help you, you would tolerate it for a certain period of time. But after a while, it's like, I don't need these drugs anymore. Get me in rehab. I need to get out of here. Like, I need to be able to walk on my own 2 feet, use my hands, and get shit done my way. Because this person has been doing my laundry for far too long, and all of them have turned pink. The dishes have not been cleaned to my satisfaction. Like, just little things like that would totally bug you. Or they haven't been buying your favorite brand of cereal. It's just really, really buggy. Like, all the materialistic items of your life are not working out the way they're supposed to, and it just really bugs you. So something to look into with that one. For if you feel a little imbalanced, it's basically that's the social and emotional indebtedness that you feel afterwards because you feel guilty for not being able to be self-sufficient. Yeah, there's Eric's and whoever else's Vertex and Taurus.
Did you give yours? She said she don't have no clue. Gab's gonna have to help you with that, Ash. I'm not sure what mine is either. I'm about to find out in just a second. It
looks like Eric posted something for you guys. It has a calculator.
That's for
a Vertex.
Yeah, that's for Anthony there because I was actually about to post some. Eric, thank you. You beat me to the punch. I'm glad you did that because I was gonna send something for him because I didn't want to have to cut Gabby off, so I would have just sent you. And it's always easy to just read something yourself anyway. I mean, Gabby can tell you everything, but if you're one of those people that don't believe anything, I mean, you might well just read it yourself. You know what I mean? Like
honestly, like the best place to find some of this stuff is usually in forums, forums of other astrologists or people who just study astrology in general. Like they don't really have like a business brand through it, because some of the times it's really unbiased information. Like it really is from a perspective of just almost like innocence. Yep. Like it has this very like unique like spark that just like you're just like, okay, that makes sense. And then like if it doesn't make sense in the level of degree you're looking at, there's always somebody else that has another level of that that can totally reach. I'm not sure if I can figure out mine because I don't know my exact birth time. If you just do the rough estimation, so if you have just put 12:00 and then I think it's the PM.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, do that in there, Anthony, and then we'll just do a rough estimation because even sometimes people just don't have the stuff because the doctors didn't write it on the paper, or the parents lost their original documentation, or
Right.
it was burned in a fire, water damage.
Something.
Nobody's gotten a baby book because you were like the third or fifth child and there was no need for you to have one. Things happen. And yours is Capricorn? Okay, so we did go over that. So that's cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Capricorn is very similar to Taurus.
Yeah.
It's very similar to Taurus. Yeah. So what we're going to do to round up the show here, because I don't want to keep Gabby no longer than she needs to stay, and I need to get dinner started. By 9, I usually try to make sure I got everything done. But
okay.
Because I still have a lot of other stuff. I got to produce something for JoJo. I'm a busy man if y'all don't know that by now, but I'm always doing stuff. Contrary to popular belief, TJ is always busy. But so is Gabby. But yeah, I'm a multi variety podcaster. I do a lot of stuff, and I have people that work for me. So they literally expect to have their time, and they pay me for it. And I have to pay them actually, but their time brings the viewership in exchange. I pay them. So my goal eventually is to turn my channel into more of a while I'm loaning out time because I want to be a producer. I don't want a podcast forever. I love talking about stuff, but I'm gonna eventually transition to a podcaster while I'll just basically loan time to people and pay them for it. That's basically what it's gonna do. And I get paid in other ways. But with that said, I'm gonna give Gabby my my stuff, and then we're gonna find out because I'm so curious to find out. And that since we're talking about Vertex, I might as well find it out while I'm here. And the midheaven thing too, and my Chiron. I've been very, very interested in find out what my Chiron. With that said, Gabby, what do you need from me?
I'm gonna need your date of birth, the place that you were born, and the time you were born. Okay, but since we know that, we'll start with location for you, and then
Chicago.
Which is that Chicago?
Chicago, okay. Illinois.
Okay. Chicago. And then to answer Anthony's thing here, it does make a little bit of a difference. Only because the other signs and planets that are aligned in your chart, they link up with a different degree. We were talking about that earlier. So if you do the replay, you can kind of hear a little bit more about that. And then your date of birth is July 1st, 91. Okay. I remember that part.
Yeah. Because we put me up a few times. So that's
your birthday. You were schmammered and telling people that you were turning 30.
Yes, exactly. I was talking about that because that was a big. It goes back to that Capricorn thing Gabby was saying earlier. Where I had to look at that Lilith thing. Where I reached the top of the mountain and I just looked down and I was finally able to breathe. Like 30 was a special birthday for me because
it's very significant for you. Yeah.
It was man, it was crazy. My 20s were really crazy.
Do the 12?
Say that again.
Do you want me to do the 12 one for you, or do you want me to do the 6?
Let's try 112 and then let's try one at 6. I'll be able to tell you which one sounds more like me based on.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I will do that.
Because my mom swear it was 6, but going off my mom's memory is like believing that the world is flat sometimes. So yeah.
Alrighty. And I'm gonna go ahead and you're in Illinois now, yeah?
Yes.
Because it's gonna want where you're currently at.
I'm in Illinois, Chicago to be specific. Yeah.
You're in Chicago again? Okay.
Yep.
Well, that's cool.
Yep, that's why I still live. Not for long. I'm gonna be a Longhorn in a minute, but that's why I live for now. For 28 of my 30 years I lived. I lived in Iowa too, but that was
that's awesome. Okay, so your natal details. Alrighty. Your Lilith in this one technically says you're a Taurus.
Okay, close enough. That was still pretty. Yeah.
Sun, Mercury, and South Node in Cancer. Does that all sound accurate?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay, and your Chiron would be in Cancer. If we're just doing.
Wow. I did say water sign earlier. I said
You
Scorpio.
did.
Cancer makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Um,
If I was born at 12, of course, which isn't necessarily true. But
yeah, is your moon in Aquarius?
that's what I've pretty much always said. Yeah. I saw
Okay.
one time in Pisces, but that was just once. Yeah.
And your
if I was born
descendant
at
is in
6, it
Pisces,
was
yeah?
Pisces. Yes. Yep.
Okay, and your ascendant is in Virgo?
You said ascendant? No, I always thought my ascendant was in Pisces.
Okay, so this round out estimation for just in 12, it feels a little off from how I know you.
It's
So
for me too.
I'm gonna go ahead and go to the 6.
6 o'clock. Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds.
we're just going to do that.
But it's weird because even with the 12, when I went on Astro Cafe, it still had my ascendant in Pisces. That's really weird. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. And it had my Lilith in Cap, which Cap and Virgo and Taurus not that much different, but yeah, on here it has it in Capricorn. Okay.
I need to go to this.
Taurus would make sense because I do like food. The only time you'll ever get me mad if I haven't eaten. That's the only time you'll ever see me like. I wouldn't even say mad, just irritable. That's the only time I'm really irritable when I don't sleep well and when I don't eat. That's the only time you'll ever catch me.
Yeah. No, I can get that. I can understand that.
Mhm.
Shit.
Gabby is a Taurus, so she should know.
I am a Taurus.
Their schedules.
It can be a good thing and a bad thing.
I love Tauruses personally, but I get why some people wouldn't like them. I'm sure people like Capricorn, Geminis. I just don't. I just generally don't like them like that. But I'm sure there's people that do.
Yeah, I'm gonna change your time.
Throw a blanket statement. Most Geminis I've been put off by. Let's just say that.
Yeah, we're just gonna do 6 p.m. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, double checking. Okay, 6 p.m. Details. Yeah, your Lilith would be in Taurus.
Okay.
Your Chiron is still in Cancer. Your Jupiter is in Leo, your Venus is in Leo, and your Mars is in Leo.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that sounds more flavorful.
That sounds about more accurate.
Yeah, and your Pluto's in Scorpio.
Yep.
Ascendant in Sag.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds kind of that actually.
That seems more your tea too.
Yep. The ascendant.
Yeah, that does seem more like your tea. Okay.
Because I get along with Sagittarius actually.
And your personality would be a Pisces, by the way.
Okay, that sounds pretty similar.
Which makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much a pretty accurate timing for you.
Yeah,
but I can tell from what I got.
In her eyes, she looked like she was I was like, Mom, when I was born? And she was like 6 at night or something. She was so she was probably right. Most things my mom say I question, but I think she was right because she was thinking for a minute. So what was the Chiron again?
In Cancer.
Right, you did say that. Okay.
And I'm gonna check the house for you. So
sure.
Give me a second.
Wow, that sounds about because I've dated a lot of Sagittarius. That makes total sense.
House.
Jesus, I've dated so many Sagittarius. Wow, that's weird.
8th house.
8th house is that
sex,
Scorpio?
death, and cult, money, death and birth cycle.
Scorpio, yeah, that's Scorpio, yeah.
Yeah, has the vibes.
Wait, I'm sorry. Which one was the 8th house for?
It's technically like sex, death, and cultism, so like spirituality.
No, I mean like what's that correlated to? Is that connected to one of my planets? That's why I was.
So Chiron. I thought I had written down.
Crap! I got so much water in my chart.
Yeah.
That makes sense though.
Let me get that one thing popped up. There's one. I tapped in something in here for you guys to look up. Let me go ahead and click on this bad boy. This is the one I like for this stuff. I had put in horoscopes.astro slash or one of those little line thingies, seek.com. That's where some of the stuff that I've gotten some information from. It's very viable. Like it all kind of like fits together. Yours is in the 8th house under Cancer. All right. So you can have an unhealthy injury with people in your family.
That sounds about right.
You can believe that your parents did not give you proper care, love, and a sense of security. And even as in adulthood, unhealthy or unhappy childhood has still kind of has an open, unhealed injury. And you can compensate for this by creating your own big family and constantly still be dealing with your past, or never really, and trying to not decide to never to become your parents in order never to cause your children that pain. Now that's just with it being in Cancer. The house that it's in is in the, I think I said 8th or 7th. 8th. Okay, 8th. So the house for that, from this perspective, no, this is just the perspective that I feel comfortable with giving you. Sure. These people usually repeat getting into situations where someone is manipulating them and trying to impose their ideas on how they should live and what they should do. With being in this house, they respond by violence or acting with suicidal thoughts. They can keep getting into serious or often even life-threatening situations. And in marriage, they are unable to create a truly intimate relationship based on mutual respect and sharing.
Interesting.
That's a perspective that they have for this is just, and the thing is, this is a wound that you've probably healed a lot of. So some of this is not going to feel 100% what you've dealt with or had to deal with anymore in your present life right now.
Sure.
So like you could have a totally different plan and path with the healing that you've had already done. Because as you mature and as you've ended cycles, those are healings that you've made for this particular wound. Those are things that have strengthened the wound and made it more viable for it to actually patch or take the illusionary wound that looks like it's supposed to be there and take that illusion away, like the drawing the curtain away from the man behind the curtain thing in Wizard of Oz. Kind of that kind of situation where there's something in there festering at something. It's like a phantom pain. You're like, okay, why does this hurt? And that's kind of the Chiron is technically an asteroid. So it's in between Saturn and Uranus.
Okay.
Normally.
That's why my ass hurt, because it's something. Okay, that makes perfect sense. I've been sitting on an asteroid all the time. Okay.
So it basically represents a bridge between the material and the spiritual worlds.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Cancer, interesting. Yeah, that makes. I felt mine was always in a water sign. Yeah, I always felt that. That makes sense. Cancer, man, I got Cancer all over the place. You said
which is not a bad thing.
It's not. And you said my true self's a Pisces, right?
I said your personality. So your IC, your Amu Kuli.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's different. I got you. Okay.
Your true self is going to be your sun. Like your sun's always going to be the true self. So your south node and your north node are basically your subconscious and your conscious of your sun sign.
Okay.
So
which I believe is in Cancer, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's in Cancer.
You have a north node in Capricorn, and that's your subconscious. And then your conscious is your south node, which is, I think, your
Cancer, right?
Cancer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're reflecting what your soul is showing.
What's a Placidus, Gap?
I mean a palace, a palace.
Is that how you said PLACIDUS?
Yeah. I actually have the definition for that one.
Yeah, because I see this on this chart now that I added my time. It got this thing on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So palace, for anybody who doesn't know how to spell that, it looks like this, and it is in the chart. that bad boy right there.
Mhm.
Palace represents your talents in arts, wisdom, defense, intuition, justice, and artisan endeavors. It shows you what you are a master at, and artfully can make a win-win situation. And it offers, as well as offering people things that they cannot refuse.
So does this mean anything right here? I'll put
Um,
it on the screen.
oh, Placis is actually a system lineup for tropical in settings for your stars and stuff. It's mostly used in a lot of Western astrology charts, and it only gives so much, but it gives a lot more than most layouts. So there's like one called Conch. Looks like this. I'll put it in private so you can kind of see what that looks like right there. Look at that.
Okay.
Those are different layouts of your chart. There's
Gotcha.
different layers to your chart. So this one right here is based on a tropical standpoint. So more of a Western atmosphere of it. There's another one that's based on something else, but it's nice having you here, Ash. Thank you so much for being here for so long. We appreciate you.
Yes, indeed, Ash. Thank you.
You have beautiful sleep, hun.
Yes, indeed. She's an
But
early
yeah.
sleeper. 9 o'clock on a weekend. Wow. Interesting. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gabs.
But yeah, that's kind of like the cool thing is there's that one, and then that just shows you your talents, usually in the artistic or wisdom point of view. And then there's something called a Vesta, which is also in your chart, and you're a Cancer in that one.
Wow, I got Cancer all over the place. Yeah.
Which that one's connected to sensuality and healing. And that inspires your willingness to focus on your own spirituality and your inner causes. It's also considered to be kind of like symbolic for the type of dedication, focus, and spiritual commitments that you put under yourself, which also can help you understand what you're likely what you would likely sacrifice for your spiritual goal.
Interesting. Okay. Can you email that to me too, Gab, so I can have that?
Yeah. Do you have I think I have your email over here already.
Yeah, tjtheprodigy@yahoo.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you.
Yep.
Which one did I give you? The MSR one, or did I give you the other one?
Let me double check.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, no, it's right. I always have my email open because
Like,
of
I
work.
just, like, damn it, Gabby.
I always got it open someplace. Gabrielle.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, I think I found you.
Your thing is MS. Yep, right. 369. That's the one you gave me.
Okay.
Yep, and I should be getting it in just a second. Yep. Wow, Ascendant in Aquarius and Sag. That makes a little bit of sense. Yeah. I do like to travel and learn and stuff like that. So that makes
So this is kind of like my cheat sheet, that I've collected over the last like year and a half. But I finally put it on a digital paper.
Nice.
So I
Yeah.
wouldn't lose it. So there you go.
Alrighty. So yeah, because this is something I would love to just have.
Yeah, it's under the email for Sweet Peas chart because that's the one I found it under. So
Say that again.
it's under the one that we sent for Sweet Peas chart last time. So
Let me see. Okay.
so if it says reply Sweet Peas chart thingy on the title.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, there's a lot of links that are in here from me writing what my like interpretation of what they described it to be, and then I have usually like a link to the website to double check and verify things that resonate with me or don't resonate with me. Just double checking all that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And is the chart under a link or something like that?
There's different ones that you can click on, and you can view the website
Mm-hmm.
so that you can kind of see which perspective I was looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Because I typed in a couple ones in here in the chat. Cafeastrology.com is a really good one to jump to. There's a lot of different perspectives. It's not based on one person. A lot of different people gave their 2 cents in that one. There's another one that I was explaining earlier, the horoscope .astro/seek.com. That one has a pretty interesting interpretation from more of a scientific point of view. So if you're looking for something a little bit more book heavy, that's definitely one to look at. If you're just wanting to dabble and you're more of a book reader, this book here is definitely one that I highly recommend, that it's really helped me personally with how I do things. So this is The Only Astrology Book You'll Ever Need by Joanna Martine Woolfolk. And she's a super awesome astrologist, and she's been doing this for like over 30 plus years. And most of her information is deeply based on a lot of history under astrology, and she kind of gives you the foundation of what she's been using for her practices, as well as things that she's learned along the way. And there's a bunch of different like interpretations on what your body needs for your sign, what super like celebrity people that might be connected to the way that your sun sign is, or moon, or whatever. It all kind of just like links up all over the place in here. It's kind of cool. And it shows you how to make your own chart. You can actually do your own circle and make your own lines and stuff. It's kind of cool. So with that being said.
Sweet. Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect round off. We gave y'all a hefty
3 hours.
3 hours of this great content, but it was well deserved and earned for our fans being so patient and waiting that it was an overload for a while with us. Thank you, Janelle. She came in towards the end, but thank you for being here.
I'm so glad your nieces got to come over.
Yes, indeed. My nieces are here. GTG. Take care, guys. Gotta go. Oh, does that gotta go?
Love you, Janelle.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Ash, for being in the house.
Eric and Ash, you guys are awesome.
Tony was here. Anthony, I'm sorry I call you Tony.
Yeah, Anthony's been here too.
Yeah, he was here. Thank y'all for being here, but I must let Gabby go now. And,
yeah, my kids are begging for popcorn.
Oh yeah, I don't want them to hurt mom. And, we'll communicate the next time we're going to do this this week coming up. We kind of been going back and forth if it's going to be a Friday thing sometimes and Wednesday, but we'll see. I'll talk to her and correlate our schedules, and we'll come together with it.
Yeah, especially with your job coming up. So
yes, indeed. So the work's coming up, and I'm gonna try to work on that Lilith moon. That's something that came out of this today that I really want to. That Lilith. I'm sorry, that Lilith in Capricorn. That gave me something to think about. So that's something I'll be exercising out of my system pretty soon. So yeah, y'all been awesome, and thank y'all, and we'll see y'all again soon. Thank you, Gabby.
Absolutely. You guys have a beautiful